I've done this 60 times and I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to sound like an idiot.
61, I think. The last one I just haven't actually uploaded into the drive yet.
Yeah, I'm not keeping track. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. Hello.
Hey, guys. Welcome to Two Dads Talking after a brief hiatus and delayed episode publishing, the usual.
Right. So just another Wednesday or Monday or Thursday or whatever it ends up being this time. Really change it up and go for like a Saturday late morning. So before we get into anything, I think I forgot to give this update last time. And I do feel bad because I should have given it on episode 59. This is a Tomocracy. We went over the whole DNA share thing about who shares the DNA with humans the most. And Tom, you were like, it's a chimpanzee, right? And I was like, no, you're fucking stupid. It's an orangutan. I was wrong. And you were right.
Nice.
I was listening to it later and I went, you know what? I should actually look this up because I'm like supremely confident. And I had it mixed up. It says 97% is shared with orangutans and 99% is shared with chimpanzees.
Man, it feels nice to be right about something.
I know, right?
That's awesome.
And then in the spirit of everything, I looked up dandelions and daisies or daffodils was what we were debating too. And dandelions are the 25%, like I said. And you said daffodils. That's actually 35% shared.
Wow.
So
that's a lot.
I know. I didn't realize there'd be an extra 10% between two plants compared to us also. That's all. Just wanted to set that record straight.
Well, it's nice to have been right about something. This is good. It's been a little while, like at least a week since I've been right about anything. So this is good.
At least. Doing a lot of work there. You got any updates for me, or we just want to jump right into the Battle Royale?
There was a Bonnie Blue update if we wanted to climb onto Bonnie Blue again.
I really don't.
All right, then we won't. We won't touch that one. We'll be the only ones that don't touch that one.
I mean, considering what she's into, she might be the tallest mountain in the U.S. because there has to be more than a couple thousand feet up on her, right?
Yeah, to the best of our knowledge, there are at least 2,114 in a 12-hour period. So,
it's quite a hike.
That's a lot of feet. That's a lot of feet. There's an underwater volcano in the Pacific that's 1 mile beneath the Earth's surface. So this is about, they thought it was dormant and it's coming back to life and they're finding cool stuff. She's halfway to that underwater volcano that's a mile.
I thought you were just going to call her an underwater volcano. There's a sea level joke in here somewhere, isn't there?
I'm sure that there is.
All right. Fine. Give the Bonnie Blue update.
No, we're good. We're not going to do that. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
I'm questioning how you have all these Bonnie Blue updates.
Oh, I've started searching this now for it. This is on my list of things to do before we record. I go to Google News and I type in her name and I see if anything new popped up. And you know what? Things pop up all the time. So, yeah, it's all right. We're good. Let's get into it tonight. We're going to talk about some other animals tonight. Doug's got some really interesting things that he brought to mind.
Okay, hold on. I want to point out that we just went from talking about Bonnie Blue and things popping up to animals. This is in no way a bestiality conversation. Zero.
Yep, that's fair. And let's make that very clear from the get-go, please. Thank you. Once I learned what we were going to talk about, I envisioned like an Ultimate Horse Fighting 2 promo or something. But now that you've said this, I have to be a little bit more careful and meticulous as to what I write.
It's a little bit more specific. I don't know. Apparently, it's not as widespread as I had thought. Probably because I spend most of my time in two places on the internet. Well, no, we're talking about 100 men versus one gorilla.
Gotcha.
And I don't think there's any elaborate backstory to it, like there apparently was with the man versus bear debate, which we did. I don't even know how long ago that was. Gosh, but there was no like real life scenario or conversation led to this. I think somewhere along the way, someone just said, "Hey, who do you think would win?" And everyone just started talking about it. I don't know. Maybe there's a backstory, but I just wanted to talk about that tonight. Get Tom's take on it, and then we can be boring nerdy with like real answers, and then fun nerdy with fake answers. And then it reminded me of something that I think can carry us the rest of the night.
After looking at the infographic you shared, I agree.
Yeah.
So is the question literally just
Who would
Who would
win?
win a fight in one
Yes.
gorilla versus 100 men? That's it.
I think it's supposed to be a male gorilla, like full grown male gorilla. That's like the only stipulation. And of course, it's a crappy question because it doesn't tell you the location, the terrain, the time of day, if they're fighting men, if they're allowed to have weapons, like none of that shit, of
I mean,
course.
and most of that,
So,
except for that last point, I think is largely irrelevant here. I mean, if you're armed or unarmed is relevant. And then the other big question to me is, are we talking about one-on-one, like they're lining up and taking him on one-on-one,
right.
or there's 100 of us around a gorilla and, who wins? We can all go at this thing haywire and team up.
Counterpoint, I think some of the other things do matter because I would definitely not want to fight a gorilla in its natural habitat. I'd rather have an open field, for example, because then the gorilla can't use any trees or anything like that to batter me with.
I'm
And
not sure gorillas are in the practice of battering people with trees. I don't
well,
think that's how that
if a
works.
gorilla decides to like bat you and kind of launch you, you might still kind of land and be able to get back up and keep fighting. But if there's like a tree there, then you just got your back broken because you got thrown into a tree.
Okay,
There's
but
more
that's just
obstacles to
one
break you.
person. Out of
Well,
100, I think that's not super relevant.
I think that matters more in a 100 setting because
Okay.
then you have like lanes. You don't have just open field, so there's only so many spots you can come at the gorilla. He has theoretically fewer directions to
He can
defend
put his
himself
back to a
from.
tree. Yeah, that's
And
fair.
and if he swipes and hits five guys at once, he could take out all five of them if they hit trees instead of maybe just hitting each other. Like there is some, collateral damage potential here from some of those things, but also time of day. Like I would much rather fight a full gorilla in the daylight, not at night. Personally, that's just me. So that's why I say these things.
All right. So the obvious answer here is that history has actually taught us, military strategy and history has already taught us that the gorilla would win versus 100 people. This is basically a fact based on Che Guevara and his Guerrilla Tactics Warfare book that I actually own and I love and I rewrote as a satire many years ago. But the smaller force that can use guerrilla tactics to take
Mhm.
on the greater force is hard to defeat and usually creates a battle that is long and drawn out, and the greater force doesn't get to win. Usually it's fought to a stalemate or a loss where they have to give up. So I'm going to say that a gorilla, being the master of guerrilla warfare, is going to win this thing, and it's probably just that simple. I'm going to go
Well,
with
that's
that.
fair. So you're saying that we have to not fight guerrilla warfare, we have to fight nuke warfare to
I mean, yeah,
win.
if you've got a nuke, I think you win. But Che
But no,
Guevara
you
would,
don't.
well,
You don't unless you
depends
use
how
it.
far away you are.
Oh, okay. So let's set the boundaries for this.
Yes, let's do that.
So open field, midday, like the thing that people kind of imagine with the scenario.
I'm
And
picturing like
and there's no Bonnie Blue single file line.
I'm
Everyone
picturing
can
like a
just come at the
1700s
gorilla at
Europe
once.
battle with the Brits lined up in an open field and the French lined up in an open field and approaching each other. That's what we're looking for, like background wise. That's what you're envisioning, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
100 men approaching a gorilla. I mean, obviously they can surround eventually and probably would, but yes, just combatants on each side, open field, go.
Armed or unarmed? I assume unarmed.
I'm saying unarmed for this.
I think it has to be. I think if it's armed, then it's too one sided. Okay.
Armed with spoons,
And there's no Battle of Thermopylae style. You can only approach a couple at a time. Like this is whatever goes in this field, right?
free for all, battle royale. Yes.
Yeah, then I'm going to go with the 100 men. Then say that they're going to encounter heavy casualties to be nice about it. But if I'm not monkeying around, then I think it's bananas to think that the 100 men wouldn't win eventually.
I agree. Question: how many casualties do you think?
Lots of
Oh,
casualties.
okay, that's a really solid, specific answer.
Well, I mean that I think depends on the men involved. I think that's where it breaks down. And
Mm-hmm.
do I have men with military training? Do I have people that when I talk about actual maneuvers, they know what they're doing? Are we big guys and we just like pig pile on top of this thing until it
Right.
suffocates and you can't breathe? I think at the very least you're talking about 25 to 30 serious casualties, like death or serious
Interesting.
injury. And I'll bet you that number is probably over half if we're being realistic here. I'll bet you more than half the people get seriously hurt as a casualty.
Interesting. I was interested that you thought I would have thought way higher when you said 25 30. I'm envisioning.
Well, that's my minimum. That's where I'm setting the minimum is
Oh, yeah,
25
yeah,
to
yeah.
30. Like if you give me a bunch of like former military trained people and riot suppressing law enforcement officers and federally trained Leos. Like, I think even with highly trained people, the minimum is
You probably
25.
still have like 20, 25, even if everyone like plays the parries around and tries to keep a distance and all that.
Right. I think that's your
Yeah.
your minimum right there, because gorillas are freaking mean.
Yes.
And this isn't King Kong, right? This is a normal,
No, this is
go
just
silverback for
a
fun.
normal
Okay.
800-pound
Okay, that's
all
all.
muscle
Yeah,
gorilla.
that's all right.
Just a normal one. And I envision same kind of thing, but I envision literally walk down the street, pick 100 men at random. So you're gonna have some 5'6", like doesn't even remember what a gym looks like kind of person in there, and you're gonna have your like bodybuilder, muscle-y type guys who have some like at least brief pure strength, and then you're gonna have some veterans and current or former law enforcement, types who, high school wrestlers, guys who know how to fight to a degree. I think you're gonna just kind of have a blend of that. Now, in my mind, you're probably getting about 60 to 65 casualties, yeah, and or seriously hurt, like beyond some version of repair. Can't make them completely whole again, mangled leg kind of thing. But I do think what ends up happening is the best strategies if you don't have like battalions and trained fighting is everyone just kind of jumps on him and keeps trying to get him. And the guys who get tossed off, he tosses off 5 or 10 at a time for a couple of minutes. And if you sort of have to assume that everyone who can keep fighting does, you know what I mean? Otherwise, it doesn't work. Because I think most people would be like, fuck no, I'm not going to do this. And all everyone turns around. But I think that's what you end up with. Probably deaths is probably half of that. Like I'd probably say 25 to 30 deaths and another like 30 to 40 like serious injury. Your arm's never going to work the same again. Kind of injuries at bare minimum for people. But then yeah, everyone else just eventually the gorilla collapses under the weight from exhaustion and 10, 20 guys constantly on him. And even a gorilla, you take enough punches even from normal men, you're going to have, it is going to do damage over the long haul, especially once you get a chance to like gouge at some eyes and stuff like that.
So what's your demographic look like? If you were picking your 100 people, what are they like? What's your ideal demographic for this look like? You get to pick a demographic for 100 unarmed men. How are you choosing your guys?
Male?
Well, clearly, but I mean, this, you said you were going to have some like 5'6" nerds. You're going to have some muscly guys with wrestling background. You some blue collar guys, some CEOs,
Okay.
So if you're picking your demographic, how do you want to break this down tactically to get this gorilla?
I mean, like I get to form my dream team?
Yeah, form your dream team.
I
Let's
mean,
go all
like
the
it's
way.
basically some version of, you know, former Army Ranger or SEAL or like Spetsnaz or something like that. Like guys who are just crazy enough as it is, and who you'll get 10 of them will be like, we'll go distract the gorilla. And then the others grab a bunch of twigs and like start, I don't know, digging a spike pit or something for 10 minutes. I don't know. Like, I guess you'd want the craziest of the crazies. Like I'm thinking like if I'd want like 6'5" Russian dudes. I don't give a shit. That's what I'd do.
All right.
You
I
know,
think I think I want about 15 to 20 little people, dwarves or midgets or whatever the appropriate term is. I think I want about 15 to 20 of them. And then everybody else has got to be a big hulking bastard or got to be like a southern US or Midwest US country boy. And that's who I want in my group. And what you do is you just line up around this thing and everybody grabs a dwarf by the hands and the feet and swings them like 1, 2, 3. And you start by throwing dwarfs at this thing like
so
6 or 10 at a time.
so siege tactics.
Like siege tactics, yeah. And eventually, this thing, you're either burying him in dwarves and he's fighting them off, and then you can attack it and pile in while he's trying to deal with these flying dwarves, or you just cover him in bodies that way, and eventually the little guys get the win. I like that approach. I don't think I want them all strapping. I want someone I can throw. I want to swing 1, 2, 3, and let them fly. That's
Well,
what I want.
the other alternative is your, Western European descent, squirrely white dude who's some version of clinically insane, and they're always like real squirrely looking and skinny and like 5'8" to 5'11" kind of dudes. But they're the guys who like a fight starts in a bar and they'll like crack a pool cue over their knee because they're gonna fucking stab you.
Yeah.
And the moment the fight stops, they're like, "Oh, okay, cool," and like they're normal again, like switches right off. I think you want guys like that too, because they're gonna be like, "I'm gonna fuck you up, gorilla."
So we had some
Like they're
British.
planning to eat the gorilla's eyeball if they get it. You
Oh
get
yeah,
100 guys like that, they might do better than 6 to 5 Russians. Honestly,
probably right.
they're crazy.
We had a British guy in Iraq who come up and hung out with us a little bit for a little while. We spent some time with him and his guys. And I forget the name of their division, but it was the Queen's Royal Special something fancy forces, whatever, doily forces. But he was essentially British Special Forces is the summary of what he was. I've got a picture that I still love of me holding his rifle and posing with his rifle. And actually that's the picture the newspaper printed here not too long ago of me, was me holding a British guy's Special Forces rifle. But the first time I talked to him, he was like, "Oh, I love you Americans. I love you guys. But God, you're all shit in bar fights." And we're like, "I'm sorry." He goes, not one of you fuckers knows how to bar fight correctly. Well, what's the right way to bar fight? Like you fight, you get drunk and you fight. And he explained to us a bunch of different little things that we do wrong. The one that like jumps to mind first is he goes, "All right, imagine you got a beer bottle in your hand, right? You got a beer bottle and you're in a fight. What are you gonna do?" And I don't know who was in the room, but someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna smash it over the fucker's head." And he was like, "No, see, that's where you guys get this wrong."
No, you smash it on the bar and turn it into a
Yeah.
jagged. Yeah.
And that was what the other guy said. He goes, "No, I break it on a table. I take it and I smash it down like this with an overhand I smash it down." And he demonstrated like an overhand motion to bring it down and smash it. And the Brit again was like, "No, no, you're still wrong." And now we're going, "Well, what's the right way?" And he says, "Well, you smash it against the table on an upward motion, like from your hip. No one sees you start swinging it. It hits the bottom of the table and breaks. And then in the same motion, you're cutting the guy's throat, and he never sees it coming." And we all stopped and thought about it and went, "That's way more efficient. Holy crap." And he had little stuff like that to say where he was exactly right.
Yeah, but see, that's how a special forces guy thinks. Like that's not fair. That's like going to a wrestling match and being like, okay, what's the first move I should pull? And then you're talking to someone who's at least like a professional boxer versus like me, you know, who
That's
played
fair.
tennis. I'm gonna sit there and be like, oh well, maybe I'll wait for him to like reach, and then I'll grab his arm and I'll do a roll, and at least the professional fighter will be like, no, stupid, like this is how you hurt somebody.
I'm just saying that I'm with you with this whole crazy Western Europeans because I love this cat and
I
his buddies. They were wild and they made a lot of sense and they knew how to kill people. So yeah, give
Well,
me a few
they
of them.
can be American, but they just have that's like the crazy, like squirrely, at least white dude kind of thing. You never hear about that from. Usually, they're not at least full Italian. You know what I mean? Like it's always some sort of like Central or Western European kind of descent. I think
Well, we
most of
have
the
our own
time.
kind of crazy here, though. Like
Mm,
in Missouri,
and
my
that was
dad had a neighbor, and this is what I think, kind of why I said, Midwest. We were
mhm,
out in this guy's. There was a big old pond. It was fed by or maybe it was a lake. I don't know, but it was fed by a river, by a creek, and it drained off into a couple of creeks. And I remember going out and visiting my dad in the summers a little bit, and I'd go out and I'd swim in this pond, and the neighbor would come out, and then we'd wander over to the creek, and they had water moccasins out there. And in my
mhm.
mind, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to mess with a water moccasin. That seems like a really bad idea." This guy would go out there and, like, tap a hand on the water, a couple of fingers to tempt the damn thing, and then when it jumped up to get his hand, he'd snatch it midair with the other hand. He'd be like, "Oh, look, I caught one," and be
Yeah.
shaking this water moccasin around. "Don't let it bite you, you'll die." But he would walk over to shore and smash it with a rock, and we had water moccasin. I never once in my life went out and just grabbed water moccasins with my bare hands. I want some of those crazy motherfuckers too, because that's kinda who I want fighting a gorilla with me, you know? So we have our own kinda crazy here. It just looks a little different, I think.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask was like, where has your dude had bar fights? Because if it's the Northeast, eh, I just have less faith that those are what's the word I'm looking for, robust bar fights. And I mean, even here in Ohio, I saw the occasional fight at a bar or a club, but they're not. It's mostly a couple of guys peacocking, pushing each other's chests there, and maybe someone gives a push, and if any actual fight breaks out, most of the time there's two or three other guys like swooping in, breaking it up. Like it never really turns into anything serious.
Mm,
But you go to a spot like Wisconsin, Minnesota, some of those like northern places, there are very few fights there because everyone kind of knows that if we decide to fight, we're fucking killing each other.
yeah.
And this it just it's a different kind of person in regions like that. Or you go way south, and people say things like, "Oh yeah, let's see if the gator's here before we swim." And then there's some idiot who wants to jump on it and ride it. It's just that's a different kind of breed of person, I think. And yeah, you want people like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, well, that's kind of why I said I want the Southern and the Midwestern guys mostly. There aren't a lot of New Englanders I want fighting a gorilla with me. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know. I was talking, so I had a physical therapy appointment this morning, and as I was doing some stretches, she looked at my elbow and was like, "Huh, did you have surgery on your elbow?" And I said, "No." She's, "You got a really wicked scar on there. Looks like surgery." And I was like, "Oh, it's a little scar, first of all." And no, it's not. That's not from surgery. It's from some guy in Savannah, Georgia. She went, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Oh, we were in a bar and he did something I didn't like, and then he attacked my elbow with his face." And she looked at me kind of funny and went, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, he attacked my elbow with his chin, and then he attacked my knee with his face, and just he made some poor decisions that night." And she took a minute to kind of register what I was saying there, and it was a bar fight. He was dating a
yeah, of
friend of
course.
mine, and he put his hands on her in a way I didn't like, and when we said something about it, he reacted poorly, and then the guy decided he wanted to headbutt my elbow, and then he wanted to headbutt my knee, and I don't know what he was thinking, but split my elbow open, and I've got a pretty decent scar on it now, and she thought it was surgery, made me kinda laugh. But, like, that was probably, honestly, the worst bar fight I ever had. Most bar fights, like you said, they're really I think I've only ever been involved in 3 total, and the other 2, I was breaking them up. I wasn't involved in it, I was trying to break them
Right.
up. And I think that's part of why is because everywhere I go has a bouncer or is mostly I'm not going to bars I shouldn't be in anymore. I haven't done that in a long, long time. But for the most part, I go to bars that, I'm welcome in, and yeah, they've got bouncers, and I feel like bouncers do a pretty good job of breaking up fights. Yeah, that's the only one I can think of that was really, really bad. We had one that spilled outside of a bar in Savannah one time. I had a couple of ranger buddies that I met in PLDC and then got to know a little bit better on a
That always
deployment, and
happens in the South.
it does, and we were out at a bar, and sure enough, we got into a little tussle. There were some Marines in there, and it was my buddy's fault. It was Evan's fault. He walked up to this guy, literally just introduction, like no hi, how are you, no blah blah blah. The bartender asked if we were with these other guys, and we said no. And he said, "Oh, a couple of Marines in here, and blah blah blah. I thought maybe you guys were together." And Evans took offense that him being in First Ranger Bat was being confused with a jarhead, and he was really upset about this. So he literally just
So
walked
he
up to
acted
these
like a
guys.
jarhead.
He did. He acted like a dumbass. He just walked up to these guys and literally patted one of them on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I heard you guys are Marine Corps." He says, "Yeah, yeah." And he says, I kind of want to say Semper Fi, but what I really want to say is, fuck you. You guys are pussies." And then he just walked away from him and like walked straight out the door. And of course they followed him. And of
Hmm.
course the Ranger buddies followed them. And then yeah, that was the worst I've probably ever seen. It was like there were 4 of us and there were 6 of them, and it was a stomping, and it was yeah, don't mess with Rangers, man. But there were times in Savannah where you'd hear someone scream Ranger down because somebody had started a fight with a Ranger and sucker punched him. And I swear these guys came out of the woodwork like friggin' termites. Like you didn't even know they were in the bar. And all of a sudden, you get this one guy who's like sucker punching this guy and got him on the ground. And the next thing you know, there's like 8 people and they've got him on the floor and they're dragging him out the exit. And it was, oh man, those are the good old days.
Well, I think I briefly mentioned my one story is I appreciate all of our armed services to a degree because you're making some sort of potential sacrifice, whether it applies or not. And I mean, I watched 2 Marines just I mean, they were normal dudes, but it was a joke. It was over in what, 12 or 13 seconds, and it was a 2 versus 5 kind of situation, and the 5 guys needed about 10 more to have a chance, honestly, just to get some cheap shots. It just wasn't, I mean, these guys were fast and they didn't mind taking that one hit.
Yep.
Whereas the other guys, their plan, or, went out the window the moment they got touched.
And honestly, I've always felt because I've had a few I've gone hands on a few times in my life, and I've always felt like the single biggest factor is who's okay with getting hit. Like who
Yep.
can take that hit and keep going. Some people actually like that, some people actually enjoy it.
Yeah, rev
If
them
you
up a little bit.
Yeah, if you're okay taking a hit, if you're that guy who's okay with getting hit and you can still function, you're going to win a lot of fights. Really just that simple. Because
Wasn't
most
it?
people, like Tyson said, you're
I was gonna say everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, right?
yep,
That was
yep,
it. That's what I
that
was
was
thinking
it.
of. Yeah.
And that is one of the most accurate quotes I've heard, honestly, in my entire lifetime.
Hmm. Yeah, I
I've
think
easily had 100 tosses in my life, easily, and I feel like that is the
so.
one
That's a
maxim
few
that always holds
times.
true. It's a few. Well, a lot of them were as a police officer, where
Well,
it was a different situation. It wasn't like throwing hands; it was a little bit different. It was more wrestling, but yeah,
and you know, in some ways more dangerous, but in some ways you're usually dealing with people who are, in a certain kind of state or situation too. Whereas as long as you move quickly, you have a high chance of success too, I suppose,
yeah.
more so than in other spots.
I mean, I've had 3 fights for my life that I know of. 3 fights
Mm,
that it was gonna be me or someone else, and I survived all 3. I honestly took that. I think I've
obviously,
mentioned it before, obviously. I've mentioned it before, but really when I was 20, I feel like I was supposed to die. I don't think I was supposed to survive one then, and, when I turned 40, my first thought was like, "Wow, I got, like, a whole extra lifetime out of this." I thought my life was gonna end at 20, and instead I got a whole 'nother 20 years. I feel like I lived a whole bonus life, and I feel like
yay!
I'm on my 3rd life now, yeah. I really legitimately feel like this is life number 3 right now.
Yeah, like a
Um,
cat.
man, if I have 9 of them, that would be 180. I don't think that's gonna work.
It could. Why not? They could come up with like the brain chip thing, like altered carbon style.
I
But you
honestly
don't know.
believe that my grandchildren will have the option to live like 150 years or 200 years. Like, I really think that the way medicine is growing and technology is growing exponentially right now, I really think that my grandchildren will be looking at some really interesting choices about prolonged life versus sort of an organic passing. I think that's going to be a big debate in their time, maybe even in my kids' lifetime. I don't think it'll be in ours, but
So
I think that by then it will be.
I never envisioned that 100 men versus a gorilla would lead to this kind of discussion.
I don't
But
know. It seems to me a pretty black and white mortality discussion.
well, I disagree. Okay, so there's a lot of philosophical slash, I guess you'd call them epistemological. Is that the right word? Basically, existence questions.
I think it's the right word, and I'm not going to disagree with you because you'll
Yeah,
know better
if
on that one. So
if there's oh yeah, orangutans and chimpanzees.
this is different. You're a very devoted Catholic. You were a philosophy major and
What is
religious
with the
history guy.
Catholic thing? This has nothing to do with Catholicism.
It does though. It
There
does,
are plenty
because
of
if you're a
people who
devoted Catholic, you're going to have more of a background in education on theology than I will.
well
Me,
on
I've got a very surface level education on a lot of different religions, but you've done deep dives. And so when you say what's the right word for this, because you've got scholarly background in this subject, you're probably going to get the right word more than I will. So
well
I think it's very relevant.
I'm not even thinking theologically. I'm just thinking because like there's plenty of people that sit there and think that death, you know, air quotes death proper term, is just the a pseudo veil being lifted or like a you're not it's not the religious thing where you go to some other place, but it's another existence, and
I
that's why
hope that
people
that's
believe
true.
in ghosts and whatever like that. It's some sort of other like altered state. And so to me, some of these questions that we can fight about all day, some capability like that would potentially answer those questions. Like if you download someone's quote brain to a microchip and then you upload it into a new human. I mean, is this like Matrix style where it can only work with certain, humans that are manufactured or born a certain way in certain gestational pods, like also born of science? Or is that person just a little bit different afterwards? That does that imply that there's I think there's some non-physical part of people. Again, I'm not even getting into a religious side of that. I just think there's all sorts of little things like all the ghost stories, people kind of there is sort of an intuition, a gut feeling that people have, and maybe it's somehow some sort of antenna with quantum level whatever, that's not based on direct energy transfer. It's based on some sort of universal thing. But to me, that's not a physical sense, even still. Think like you see that series Behind Her Eyes. Did you ever see
Mm-mm.
that?
No,
It's worth a watch. I won't ruin it because it's a hell of a plot twist, but without ruining the major thing is it's some characters learn how to sort of do the remote viewing thing, where you can float yourself through walls and see stuff and hear conversations and everything without actually physically being there in the room. So that kind of thing, they tap into this sort of other side of them, then they can travel out of their body kind of deal. Some sort of brain chip download would be would answer some of these questions. Or another good one, the movie is called Transcendent, and it stars Johnny Depp.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's and same kind of thing. He downloads his full knowledge and personality, and he lives on after his death from probably cancer or something like that. And then he's downloaded enough of his brain that he can learn more stuff. He's sort of an AI type of thing where he's sentient enough to make certain connections and as a computer essentially. And then he gets all the way to where he can like engineer a new body for himself and then download himself in it from the cloud. And he's doing it to try to like be still with his, love. And she's like, "This is not you, dude. Like, what the fuck?" But same kind of concept. Could you do something like that? And I just think it's not the same. I think you get sort of an AI equivalent. You get someone that knows the right answer to things that someone would say, but there's just something very carnal, visceral, human, if you will, missing from stuff like that. It definitely is a programming rather than an interaction.
So
But we won't know.
yeah, I look at it a little differently. Shocker.
Right. Think like the Prestige is the new person actually that same person.
Well,
And like
yeah,
no.
it's the ship of Theseus is kind of what it's the whole ship
Kind
of
of,
Theseus
yeah.
paradox. I look at it a little differently than you did. Instead of
Well, if it's
downloading,
Ship of Theseus, then it could be the same person, but I'm wondering if there's a non-physical element that transcends brain function, if you will,
sure. Well, I mean that's also
then that
part of the argument with the ship of Theseus, like part of the commonly accepted, not solution, but
right.
so I look at it as not downloading, thoughts and uploading thoughts into a new body. I don't look at it quite like that. I look at it more as the most likely way this is going to go down is we're just going to develop organs that don't fail, or the ability to replace organs when they're
Reprogram.
going to fail.
Yeah,
Right, a lot more
right.
like that. I
Yeah,
feel like
fair.
that's the direction we're heading. Is that oh, someone's got a bad heart. Well, we've got the technology to detect it before it fails and replace it before it fails, and create our own organs to do this and make it sustainable. I think that that's going to be the future eventually, and that people are eventually going to be walking scar bags that just have all these new organs in them and new body parts, and that
Right.
they live as long as the brain can tolerate life. And who knows? Maybe we find a way to clean that up, and maybe we find a way to preserve that too. I don't know.
Well, and then you start answering some of these questions that people have been fighting about for literally forever.
Right. But I look at it because of
Interesting.
that, because I'm looking at it as in sort of replacing parts. I really do look at it much more as a ship of Theseus kind of thought experiment.
I
And for
didn't think
anybody
about it that way. That's fair.
for people who don't know that, I know you and I are kind of bantering about it. I think
You're
we
right.
brought it up once
We should
before.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, the ship of Theseus it's one of those paradoxes that people have argued about and that they've fought about. Essentially, it's one of those thought experiments that says, the Athenians brought back the ship of Theseus, his ship. Theseus was a person in Greek history or Greek mythology, and when he got back from Crete, they didn't want his ship to go to waste. And so what they did was, as the planks were rotting, they replaced them. As the sail mast rotted, and they replaced it. As the sails went bad, they replaced them, till eventually they replaced literally every component on the ship with a new piece of wood. Everything was different. They did it in increments over decades and whatever. So it wasn't like it was just a brand new ship built at once. It was just replacing things that were failing. So is this still the ship of Theseus if every single piece of wood on it is a new piece of wood since his voyage? Is it still the same ship? Is it different? At what point does that change? And it brings into a lot of sort of how we identify things,
Yeah.
how we define existence is kind of the process.
Well, and the allegory of life version is Theseus sets out on a voyage with his crew and they bring spare lumber because water exposure, things rot. And
Yep.
over the course of the journey, they replace every single plank of wood on the ship. Is the ship that arrives at the end of the journey the same as the one that left? And they've thrown all the rotted pieces overboard. It's not like they're being carried on the ship too or anything like that. And that's the question.
Yep.
And that's, I don't mean to be ivory tower, Doug, but to me, that's kind of philosophy 101.
Yep.
Really.
And I love it. It's one of my favorite thought experiments of all time.
Yeah,
Is
it's a
it
cute one.
Yeah, is it the same ship because it still has, it's still serving the same purpose and it still has the same owner? Is it the same ship, only as long as it has a piece of material that's original to it, and once it doesn't have any left, it's suddenly a different ship? What's how do you identify this thing? And it's a great thought experiment. It's
No,
really cool.
remember when I mentioned my metaphysics professor said he can ask a question and based on your answer, kind of say how you view reality. It's the same kind of concept. Like, what do you to you, what is a ship really?
There you go.
Is kind of what it answers. So, and I think the answer is easy because our bodies do that. The claim is that roughly every 7 years, every atom in your body has been replaced with a new atom.
Yep.
And that explains why you literally have changes in tastes, why you're allowed to grow, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, change is fundamental,
yeah,
right? That's the
right.
bottom line there. Is that
Are you
change is
still you?
fundamental.
Of course you are.
Yeah. But a different you than you were 7 years ago, for sure.
Well, yeah, of course. Duh.
So
Obviously.
then maybe you're not the same you. So maybe it is different because you're a different you. I'm a
Well,
very different person than I was 7 years ago.
well, yeah, that's the point, though. That's so. This is why I say it's philosophy 101, and I sound like an ass when I say it that way because it's not avoiding the question, but it's like, well, duh, like just real world. Of course, you're this. It's the same but different. You are the same person, but you have a different body, and to have such an easy answer, you sort of require a pseudo dichotomy of existence. If you don't have some non physical mode of existence, then you have to have at least some sort of non tangible mode of existence. And I make that distinction because tangible and physical are not necessarily the same thing. You can have something that's not tangible, but still physical, like, wind, for
Yeah.
example.
Yep.
So you have to have something that's not concrete in your existence, in your physical existence at minimum. And to me, that's just obvious because that's every human being ever. Religions call it a soul. Plenty of other people call it plenty of other things.
So let's elevate it to the philosophy 201 level.
Ooh,
So
hold on. Let me get my book.
Yep, get your book. Get your old notes. Open that 1999 computer. Ah, fuck, you're not nearly that old.
I was
Never
going to say
mind.
you're the older twin. This is a
And
2007
I was still
computer.
in high school in 99. Okay.
We
All
were
right.
getting close to 200 gigabytes, sir.
Oof, man.
I don't know.
I deal with things in like terabyte level now, and it's not enough. And we look at picobyte, and I'm just like, things have changed. I remember having a Tandy that had less than a gig on it. That's what I remember growing up, and it was so impressive that we had this thing. I was so proud.
I remember a flash drive with 256 megabytes, and people were
Yep.
like, "Wow, that cost you $80."
Gosh, I remember that.
Which would be like $500 in today's money.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so philosophy 201. You were talking about how they brought this lumber with them and they just threw away the old stuff so that they didn't have it anymore. So it's not even on the boat. Like the
Right.
boat is all new.
It's floating
What
in
if
the ocean.
Right. What if a boat behind them was collecting all of that original material as they went and then used that material to rebuild a boat? Which one is actually the ship of Theseus then?
So, do you want me to?
I'm just musing because you're the philosophy guy.
You're
It's an
leaving
interesting
this
question.
open. So,
It just seems interesting to me, and I'm curious how you'll answer it.
if you're going to do an honest thought experiment, the reason the first boards on the ship of Theseus were cast off and replaced was because they were rotting. They were insufficient for boating. So, if you collected all those and put them together, you would not have a boat. You might
What
have
if you were a better carpenter or you had a way to repurpose them? Like there are ways that we recycle things all the time. Maybe they erroneously threw perfectly good wood over and made mistakes and they thought they were rotting and it turns out they were actually fine. Maybe it just makes a smaller boat. I don't know. But if you've got a boat made of all the original material and then you've got this boat that's been updated plank by plank, which one should be considered the ship of Theseus?
My own personal first answer is if you're going to treat the logic game, or what am I saying? That's not the right word. If you're going to treat the scenario honestly, then you don't have a functional boat with these other pieces because these are seafaring individuals in a seafaring culture. They're not going to just erroneously throw away every single piece. You're going to have something that can't actually float and function as a boat. You would have a model of Theseus's ship potentially, but in your case, if we're going to give these extra assumptions to assume that somehow we still have a functional boat otherwise from all these pieces, then what you have is a clone. But you don't have the Theseus's ship because one thing already assumed that identity and has maintained enough material the entire time to maintain that identity. So you would have Theseus's ship's clone.
I'm seeing a science fiction short story coming out of this. That's what I'm envisioning right now.
Yeah, so that's I guess my answer if you want to give it both ways. To me, the second one is a representation of Theseus's ship utilizing old or prior pieces from Theseus's ship. And you could put that in a museum while Theseus's current ship is still out sailing and regaling the seas. You know, if you wanted to give a representation for people to get a full experience or a visual back home. But that people would not call that second piece Theseus's ship. And we're back. Sorry about that. We had a little kiddo crying interruption in the middle of this, so
And more importantly than that,
we're
I
back
had an
now.
idea for a short story I want to write. So, you know, kids cry all the time, whatever. I don't have inspiration like that every minute.
Yes,
So.
more important than the emotional well-being of my children.
Yes. Welcome to our dad podcast, by the way.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, that. And you know, while I was up there just checking on this, I realized that this exact it kind of like flickered in my brain. I remembered the exact time when we did this exact discussion about Theseus's ship and what if someone collected all the boards. But technically it's still a philosophy 101 because of the class I discussed this in. But that's not really fair. That's philosophy 101 with philosophy majors who wanted to like keep doing it. so
Yeah.
so there's that.
So
No,
gorillas.
good
Men versus
question.
gorillas.
It's a good question. But yes, men versus gorillas. So I think we agree the men would win. They would incur heavy casualties. Obviously, if you're allowed to do certain factors like weapons or trained fighting or at least tacticians of some kind, some sort of prep work beforehand, you can, you know, mitigate some of those losses. But you're probably, I don't know if there's any situation outside of like, you know, specific weaponry choices. I don't know if you can have fewer than 10, at least, no matter what. Like, 6'5", 250-pound, muscular, former special ops is all your 100 guys. They have at least some version of prep or planning ahead of time, you know, where they get like 5 or 10 minutes even of just like game planning before they go out onto the field. They don't get any weapons or anything like that or any trap setting, but they have at least that. I think you still have 10 to 15, like at least serious injuries, right? You
Yeah.
just, because someone's going to have to literally take the hit to have everything else happen, you know, a couple of times. I just don't think you get out of it. I don't think there's any scenario where you have 5 or fewer without, you know, a bazooka
Well,
kind of thing.
I've got exactly two scenarios where you keep your casualties at like less than one, like where your casualties are exactly gorilla. There's only two possible scenarios, and that's one if you've got Chuck Norris within your 100, and two if you've got Rag Reynolds. Like those, if you've got either of those guys in your squad, you're good. You just let them go handle business, and you know you're good. But I don't think there's anything outside of that that really gets the job done.
I saw an AI battle thing that said Chuck Norris versus 100 gorillas. And it was just this little Chuck Norris like avatar just roundhouse kicking gorillas flying everywhere.
That sounds good. I'd watch that.
And obviously Chuck Norris won, clearly.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw one that was the US military versus 100,000 gorillas. And I think the clip stopped at like 400 gorillas left, but it looked like the military was going to win, but they did have some losses. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, it's fun. The real nerdy, less fun answer is that multiple, you know, zoologists or biologists or whatever ologists that, you know, would probably have some expertise in the area have all basically said sort of what we thought, which is you're having significant casualties, probably 40, you know, at least kind of deal. But gorillas are built for, you know, strength and like quick fights. They're not built for any version of endurance. So gorilla would exhaust itself very quickly, is what pretty much they all say. Like they'll definitely get 2 or 3 good minutes of fighting, but after that they would just be completely gassed in the real world. And you know, obviously they're not tacticians, they're not going to conserve energy or anything like that. And once you get a little bit of gassing, he said just the sheer weight of even 10 guys on him, that's 2,000 pounds. A gorilla can't hold that up, for very long. And then it's just game over, basically. Can't get up after that.
I found the video for one Chuck Norris versus 100 gorillas, and this is brilliant. This is wonderful.
You watching it? Isn't it great?
Yes,
They're just flying.
fantastic.
They're just flying everywhere.
Yep, this is fantastic.
Isn't it good?
This is one of my favorite things I've seen all day.
It's so stupid, but it's funny.
So let's get on to Americans and Brits and their self-assessments of their own hand-to-hand combat capabilities.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a minute. And this link will definitely be in the show notes.
Yes. Well, because the gorillas thing reminded me of this, and I don't know when exactly I saw this. I obviously saw it within the last 4 years because of when the survey was conducted.
Yep.
But so the title of this is, which animals could you beat in a fight? And the question was, two steps back. It was a survey of 2,082 adults of Great Britain conducted on May 18th and 19th of 2001. And they also surveyed 1,224 U.S. adults, which was conducted on April 12th and 13th, 2021. So a little more than a month before the Great Britain survey. And the question was, which of the following animals, if any, do you think you could beat in a fight if you were unarmed? So it does give us the unarmed thing, but it doesn't give you any other details. I just want to kind of go through each one by one and talk about it. I don't want to give a full list yet. I don't know about you.
Yeah, let's do it that way. That's fine.
Okay, let's start at the top. The one that most people thought that had the most "yes, I could beat this in a fight" responses unarmed. Rat.
Yep. Yeah, I could take a rat. That's fine. I could stomp on a rat.
So now, for the record, Americans by percentage were always higher than the Brits
on every single one of these.
Every single one of these.
The Americans, more of us thought we could beat this animal than the Brits did.
Yes.
And they surveyed over twice as many Brits.
Right. So there's maybe that numbers would change. They had a few more Americans. I also want to note that it just says adults. It doesn't say men or women or it doesn't say a specific demographic. So there could be some 18-year-olds in here versus some 55-year-olds, for example. Because, 20-year-old me would be much more confident than me now, I think, with some of these questions.
So I'm on the YouGov.com website.
Oh, did you find it?
I pulled it up. And they said that they had previously highlighted male overconfidence, but after reviewing their data and looking at it again, there's effectively no gender difference when it comes to the top tier of opponents. Men and women are equally likely or unlikely to think they could beat grizzlies, lions, gorillas, and crocodiles. Those numbers were the same for men and women.
Well, the differences gave away the game at the bottom.
Sorry. The differences start to emerge with wolves and kangaroos, and that's where men start rating themselves higher than women. Mm-hmm. But in fairness, men typically are larger, have more muscle mass, have more combat experience.
Basically, when there's a little bit more gray area, the spread between men and women occurs.
Yeah. And that makes sense that men would be the ones to overrate themselves.
Yeah. Well, the way you were reading it at first, it was just like, well, at first we thought it was male overconfidence. Then when we looked at our data again, and what it really means is like, okay, so you actually looked at your data instead of just assuming.
Yeah. Yep.
is what I heard there. So a rat, and we have to guesstimate this. So about 72% of American adults think they could take a rat unarmed, and then Brits, it was like 7, something like that. Looks like that.
Yeah,
68.
Like I see 72% is what they listed total here on their website. They no longer break it down by country. So
so house cat is the next one down. About the same number of Brits, like 66%, say they could do it, and for Americans, it's like 69%. Think they could do it unarmed. I would like to pause here because this is something I'm going to be saying with some regularity on this list if I don't help myself. What you're really telling me is that over 25% of the surveyed U.S. population, adults, does not think that they could beat a rat in a fight unarmed.
Yeah, that seems wild to me, right?
Same with a house cat. I can sort of understand a house cat because some people are sitting there thinking that they would just run away from the cat and like close the door and stand outside and call the police to come help. Like maybe, you know what I mean? Like that in your mind, that would be a loss.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my problem here. I'm sitting here thinking it's me or the rat, dude. Like someone's dying, someone's maybe eating the other one after they're done. Like I don't,
Yeah.
that's this is battle royale style. This isn't like I get to just close the door and be like, well, I lost a fight to a rat. So that's my concern here.
Yeah, I'm actually, now that you say it that way, I'm wondering what the is wrong with you if you don't think you can take a rat. Like,
Right, like yeah, it's gonna bite your toes. Yeah, you're gonna have to get rabies shots afterwards. But like, what? You're gonna freak out because the rat bit your toe. You're gonna fall over, and then the rat's just gonna bite your face however many times before you die. Like, what
do you
is
think the
this? Like,
rat's gonna get to your jugular? Is that, or the femoral maybe, I guess, is a closer. I don't know. There's a major one in the ankle too. I guess maybe you think they're gonna get to that. I don't. Yeah, I don't
are
understand. How, as an adult, do you not believe you could take a rat?
are these like New York street tunnel rats, or are they like? I don't know. It just seems odd to me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
In all honesty, I would rather fight a house cat than a rat. I feel like the chance for
Hmm.
rabies is much lower and disease is much lower, so I would rather fight the house cat than the rat.
That's
Only because it specifically says house cat, you know?
well, that's fair. Well, I'm kind of torn. I know I'm even more confident against a rat than I am a house cat.
Yes, I am
But
too, but I feel like the after effects would be much, much less against the house cat.
yeah, I feel like with a rat, it'd be like biting that spot between my like index finger and my thumb, and it would
Yeah,
be like extra tender and I'd get real pissed and I'd be shaking my hand
yeah.
and then it would fall on the ground and I'd to win, I'd have to like squish it like a pancake, like with my foot.
And see, I'm picturing just stomping the fucking rat. I'm not even trying to go hands-on with this thing. I'm just gonna
Well,
stomp that sucker into oblivion.
I just mean like my first thing would be like it latches onto my leg. I reach down with my hand to grab it. It bites my hand, and now I'm like, "Rah," and now I decide to stop it. With a house cat, the instant I like grab it, I'm like chucking it against the wall, which for some reason I'm not doing to the rat in my head.
Okay.
Just so that's why I feel like I could finish the house cat off faster because I can just throw it against something or bang it against something. With a rat, I would decide I have to squish it, and I can't squish a house cat, so it's actually more expedient for me to finish off the house cat because I would find more things to bang it against. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just thinking. I'm trying to get real like visceral here, and just how would I feel like I'd react if this thing started charging me? I don't know.
But at the end of the day, we agree. Why don't 30% or 28% of
Rat
people
needs to
think they
be
can beat a
like
rat? Yeah.
92%, and the 7 of those 8% are people who are just like genuine pusillanimouses.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in that 28% and you're an adult, a fully developed grown adult of like normal mental and
Right.
physical development, if you feel as though you cannot defeat a rat in combat,
Don't have
then
kids.
Darwinism has failed. And we have kept the wrong people in the gene pool. I kind of feel that.
Well, and I know we had that talk earlier about like, if it's a wild animal, like you don't want to mess with a wild animal because it's a
Yeah.
wild animal, but you don't want to mess with it because it'll hurt you. It's not like it'll kill you. Like it's, just it's not worth the trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would say don't have children if you can't handle a rat because unless you somehow think your answer changes if you have to protect your kids, in which case you're not answering correctly on this survey. Like I don't like the idea of you having kids if a rat is just
That's
gonna
yeah.
mafioso your whole family because you can't handle it.
That's 100% accurate right there. Like, yeah, if you don't think you can defeat a rat, don't have kids. Like, you're
Parent
not ready.
tie-in.
Yeah, you're just not ready.
We spend too much time on this. Next one, my favorite one, Goose.
This is the best one on the
This is the
whole
best one.
chart.
It's all downhill from here. So Goose, 61 ish, 61, 62%
61 is what they list on their website.
of
Yeah.
Americans say that they could beat a goose. Brits, it's like 45%. And as one comment said, when I first saw this thing, someone said, "What kind of geese do they have in Britain?" Because this must be some monster geese or something. It's such a huge spread on this one. It's the biggest spread of the whole table for just
On this
raw
one,
data.
I think there's actually a really good answer for this one. Geese are really mean and they've got a hell of a bite. And I think if
Yeah.
you've never actually seen that happen and never seen that go down, you'd be like, yeah, I can take a goose. And so in America, we don't have to interact with geese very often. Like we don't.
Disagree. I
Okay.
have those Canadian motherfuckers around me all the time.
Well, right. And so
I
do I.
usually make
But I'm saying people who don't, a lot of people don't have them around them. So a lot of Americans don't ever have to deal with geese. If you're not in that migratory path, you don't have to see them. And even if you do, there's a lot of space and we can avoid them and leave them alone. Whereas in Britain, if you're on an island and that island is stuck in their migratory path, you probably don't have as much space to maneuver around them. You've probably seen them be meaner. You've probably seen someone get a bite taken out of their butt by a goose, and it's probably you've gotten a much you can't avoid them as well as we can because you have less space. So you've seen the meaner side of a goose, and you know what they're capable of. I'll bet you the Brits probably just have a more realistic view of how vicious a goose can be. Again, if you can't take a goose, there's something wrong with you.
well, but see, there's got to
But it's
be a
gonna hurt.
cultural. Yeah, but there's got to be a cultural thing here too, because we were just talking about like the people who we want to fight the gorilla with us are like the guy who tempts the water moccasin and snatches it out of the water. That that's someone who's been around them and is familiar with them and knows how they work. And yeah, maybe is being a little bit more liberal or stupid with their behavior around them, but usually more exposure requires more it leads to more comfort, more understanding, more, you know, ability to handle said creature. So to me, having more geese around, I would expect the Brits to say, yeah, they're cheeky bastards, but we could take them. I would expect, depending upon the survey results, that more women here, in the US who don't really have up close and personal with geese would be more afraid of them because they don't know that, yeah, it hurts, but it's just like a bunch of weird toothless pinches. I don't know. I
Oh
don't
man,
know.
a goose bite's gonna hurt. That's a savage little yeah.
Yeah, it does hurt. It didn't stop me fucking with the geese though in my backyard constantly. There was a part of me that wanted to throttle one. I hated them.
I got bit in the ass by a rooster when I was a kid. I don't like birds. It's just
See,
that
I think
simple.
a rooster in my mind would hurt more than a goose because at least you have a little
No.
bit of like, you're pinching flesh versus like you got at least a little bit of a hook in
No,
there,
because
like on the.
geese have little itty bitty sharp teeth in their mouth, and they've got way more jaw strength, and they're bigger with more muscle. No,
Yes, I don't know.
a
I don't
rooster
know.
I can
Like,
just kick. A goose has that long neck that's fast. It's
well,
a little harder to get around. It's almost like a goose is like a snake and a duck had a baby. And you don't want to mess with a snake duck. Like that could be a t-shirt all on itself. Don't fuck with a
I
snake.
do. I do. Hold on, I'm gonna write this down. Don't mess with a snake duck.
I love that I can see you on the episode spreadsheet clicking buttons. Oh, you're in the wrong. Oh, I'm in the wrong episode. Never mind. I was putting our notes like 2 spots down.
Oh,
Whoops.
that's fine. That's fine. Hey, put them wherever. It's fine. I don't care. Um,
All the links for this are already 2 columns down, by the way. I've been putting them in there as we go.
it's good. It's good. No, nope. I don't see it. Like it's same thing.
I'm
It's
going to
the rat.
change this just for rhyming purposes, though.
It's the rat thing for me. Like really, life is on the line. Is a goose really gonna win? No, they're not. Come on, grow a pair. Even if you're a woman, grow a pair. Come on, like you can do this. Yeah, you can't go to the Christmas party 5 years from now and be like, yeah, we used to have 3 kids, but the goose got one of them because I wasn't strong enough. Like, you know what I mean? It just that's not what would happen. It's not,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. No, you're
You
right.
know, maybe if like you were at the Grand Canyon and like that goose just had a thing against your family and like flew up and bonked a little Billy right when he was at the edge looking over, like maybe, I don't know. It's
A
just,
flyby attack,
but that's
a
like
dive bomber.
yeah, but that's a goose sucker punch. Like you can't.
Yeah, that's a
That's
foul. That's a foul
it
strategy
is
for
a foul
sure.
shot. So you can't do that. It's you're just that you laid an egg in that round.
Well, if
All
the
right,
kid had
next one.
ducked, he wouldn't have had a problem. All right, the next
That
one.
was your best one.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
that was good. All
That makes
right,
me happy. The next
next
one
one.
is another pretty wide
This is
disparity, but
gonna.
not as wide as goose. Medium-sized dog.
This is an unfair question because some people think medium size is like 25 pounds. And some people think medium size is like 50 pounds.
Yes, but I also think that this is where, for me, it becomes acceptable to be like, yeah, maybe I could
Maybe
probably win.
not.
Right. This is where,
Right.
for me, it's like, okay, I'm doubting my ability to defeat this animal, and it's still acceptable to doubt that as an adult.
Right. Like a 30-pound dog could trip you from running into your legs and then get your neck made,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can at
it
least
could get
sort
your
of give
wrist. It
it.
could get the radial artery in your wrist as you're trying to strike it. Like there are a lot of ways those teeth could get you, and this could go wrong. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
okay with this one. If you feel as though from this point forward, one of these animals would whoop your ass, it's okay.
It's
It's all
okay
right.
if it's
If
this one.
if you feel you can't take a rat, a cat, or a goose, I'm sorry, you've got problems, and you probably shouldn't have kids. Like that's just anyway.
Right.
Unless
Well,
you've
and
got
so
some sort of a mental or physical disability, in which case I understand and apologize.
well, and
But
see,
I'm
this
saying,
makes sense now because now we're below 50%.
okay,
So,
yep,
so the Americans are 49% and Brits are 38-ish percent
yep.
based on the graphic got here. So, yeah, for medium-sized dog, I could see it, I guess, especially because, what do they say? A dog in general, if it's an angry dog, is something like 3 times its body weight, more or less.
I've never heard that rule, but I feel like it
Like
makes
it's,
sense.
yeah, so like a medium-sized dog, 30, 35 pounds.
Yep.
You're talking 100 pounds of fight on a human scale. And, there are adults who are 100, 105, 110 pounds. Like, okay, you're right. It's starting to make sense a little bit at least. But less than half still. And then if your demographics, about half your respondents minimum are probably men. It still means that, a Cocker Spaniel is, some men think a Cocker Spaniel would win if it was super angry. It's at least more of an interesting fight. Like now you're like grabbing the ladle from the counter and trying to hit the thing in the head as it like runs after you. I'm still not concerned. I would
No,
kill the shit out of that medium-sized dog. Unless it's a
I'm with you.
medium-sized
Yep.
pit bull, then I don't know. I'm not so sure.
No, the next one is where I personally start going, yeah, okay, you got a shot. Like, yeah, I'm in trouble. The next one is where I feel that way.
Nope, nope.
You're still good.
I'm more confident on the next one than I am medium-sized dog actually,
Okay.
for a different reason. So next one is eagle.
Yep.
It doesn't say bald eagle, it just says eagle.
Yep.
So, and obviously plenty of different size eagles, but that one was 30% US and
Are there
ew.
plenty of different sized eagles? I think of an eagle as being strictly a large bird. It
Well,
doesn't say hawk and it doesn't say osprey. It doesn't
it's a
say
larger bird, but there's okay, fine, fair point. I guess it's not as wide of a spread as I was thinking. I was thinking about some of the smaller eagles, which are closer to hawk size. But you're right. It's fair to say that most people are thinking of something bald eagle-ish sized
okay.
kind of thing when they're thinking this question.
It's like a 6 foot wingspan and yeah, okay.
Yes. So, and my take on this, I am more confident that I would beat an eagle than a medium-sized dog.
Oh, see, I'm the other way around.
But
I prefer a large dog to an eagle. Like I
what's
would much rather a
interesting?
large dog.
But I think my fight with the eagle, I am more likely to incur more wounds and more damage than my fighting against medium-sized dogs. So same kind of thing. A medium-sized dog could get lucky against me more so than an eagle would.
But I'm whooping that butt. At the end of the
Right,
story,
but
the medium sized dog, I'm whooping that butt.
right, in more cases than not. But to me, an eagle, talons, claws, like I'm going to be damaged. No, it's a knife fight.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yep.
get cut. With a medium-sized dog, I could actually come out unscathed too. With an eagle, there's no way I'm coming out unscathed. But the instant I get it, it's over.
So I would
Whereas with a medium-sized dog, maybe not completely over yet when I get it.
And see, I don't agree with that. I think so. I'd rather fight a large dog than an eagle, like not medium, but large. I'd much rather fight a large sized dog than an eagle because I look at the eagle and I'm looking at this as this thing's dive bombing me at almost 100 miles per hour with knives, with talons, and with beak and with
It's
precision.
not 100 miles an hour. That's like the
Oh, it
peregrine
certainly
falcon.
is.
That's the peregrine
No, the
falcon.
bald eagle goes like 70 to almost 100 miles an hour.
70's not 100.
No, but that's the range is between 70 and 100, I think. Like it's right around, look it up, please. But I feel like
I
that's
am
the
looking it
range.
up.
I watch
Sorry.
a lot of documentaries, and I'm pretty sure that's about the dive bombing speed of the
I don't want to give this answer anymore because the AI is wrong.
eagle. What's the answer?
Bald eagles can dive at speeds up to 100 miles an hour when hunting
Thank
for
you.
prey. Damn it.
Put that one in my win column.
No.
So something dive bombing you at almost 100 miles an hour with knives it's probably going to hit you. Like, that's
Well,
fast.
yeah, of course it's going to
I've
hit you. It's
tried to hit a
flying. Yeah.
baseball. I've tried to hit a baseball at 90 miles an hour and failed miserably. So
Mhm.
for me to think that I could do something more effective against a ball of knives that's
Yeah,
targeting me and
but
diving
it's
at me
not
at
a
100 miles an
ball
hour,
of knives. It's a medium-sized dog of knives. You can hit the fucker if you have a
that's a lot
baseball
of
bat.
knives.
It is, but it's also easier to hit and catch.
Not at 100 miles an hour. No, that's
Yes, it
brutal.
is.
Like,
Come
that's
on.
tough. Nope.
I
Nope.
hit back tennis balls at 100 miles an hour, and they're even smaller than baseballs, sir. You give me a tennis racket, I'll fuck that eagle up
Nope. If it's dive bombing me and one strike is
with the
enough to
cat
end the
gun.
job,
And I strung it with the house cat I just beat up last week.
nope. In my mind, this thing hit me at 100, diving at me at 100 miles an hour. And if it hits me good once I'm done, I would much rather fight a large dog than that.
It's
I
not a
still think
full knife. The claws are big, a couple
the
inches, but
beak is like a full knife.
but a beak is not gonna it's not gonna, it,
If it hits you with the claws, it's then striking with the beak. That's how that works. Like, it's going to get you with the claws, and then
yeah,
that
but
beak
the
is coming in.
single stab, it's not gonna have enough piercing power to really severely damage a vital organ. It's gonna be,
The
you
artery
need
is not far below the skin. The eyes are very, very close. And if it blinds you, what do? You can't defend against the next one. You better hope you wrestle that sucker and smash him on the ground.
well, right.
But
I
between
also
your
think
wrists and your neck, it doesn't have to cut deep.
it's an animal though. It's not gonna like dive bomb you, go up and dive bomb again like it should tactically. It's going to dive bomb, connect, and then try to like stay on you and keep going after you, or like kind of hovering right around you. It's not gonna have any more
If it
high
hits you
speed
that
dives
one,
at you.
no, it's going to hit you more like an owl does. I'd imagine it attacks the same way an owl does. An owl will swoop and bang you in the back of the head, and then it'll go back up and come back down for another one when your back is turned to it. Owls are vicious for dive bombing people from behind and striking them from behind and
Yeah,
waiting
but then
until the
you're not
person's not.
blinded though.
Well, sure, but you can't see behind you. It's like an Ender's Game when they go into the battle simulation and everyone's like, "Wow, this can't be that hard. We're geniuses. It's a war game." But no one thinks to look up during the war game because that's not how human beings are programmed. We're just not trained to look up for self-defense anymore. And so, the enemy that wins an Ender's Game in the first couple of skirmishes is the one that's used to battling from up above and dropping
But
down on people. And this is
yeah,
a similar
okay.
thing where we're not trained to look up to defend ourselves
Well,
and we can't look behind us.
one thing we also didn't talk about with the survey was, is someone walking around outside and then just a creature comes up and attacks them, or is this like
Yeah.
you get put into an arena? I think most people
Yeah.
answered this with like you're staring each other down, 3, 2, 1,
Okay.
fight. Because
In that case, if I'm unarmed, I still would prefer the dog to the eagle. But I think my chances, if I know that it's going to come at me from above, my chances are better. Kind of like you said, I'm definitely going to get cut. There's no way around that. But
yeah. Well, and that's my thing, is that like I think there's a good chance I leave the dog fight with less damage, but I do feel like I'm virtually guaranteed to come out alive against the eagle, whereas I'm not 100% guaranteed against a medium-sized dog.
all right, so moving forward with this,
Moving,
we're putting
yes,
ourselves in an arena with these animals.
right.
It's a
Like here you go.
gladiator style arena.
You walk in and you at least have a second or two to see your opponent before you walk in, slash second or two to like,
Okay.
okay, here we go. Yeah.
So what's your fight song? What song are you walking into?
I don't know. Let's see. What's some good Weird Al references? Dare to be stupid.
Okay. I was going serious hype song, but yeah, okay. That makes sense you'd go that route. That's
I don't know. It would probably be You Want to Be It would probably be a song by Disturbed. That was like my like hardcore what I was into like in college. Ironically, I really like the song Invincible, so it's perfect
Yep, there
for
you
this. But I think Weird Al Dare to Be Stupid makes a lot more sense if you're
Yes, that
going
does
into
make
stuff
sense.
like
Yep.
this.
You're right. I'm coming into I Stand Alone by Godsmack because that was what I came down to the boxing
Oh,
ring
that's a
to, and I
good
loved
one.
it. Yeah, you can't not be hyped up when you hear that one kick in, and
Mm.
that's sexy. But
You
my
know what
last
my
fight, I came down to Cocky by Kid Rock, and I got my butt whooped. So not Cocky by Kid Rock. Instead, we're gonna stick with I Stand Alone by Godsmack.
When I was playing a lot of my tournaments, one song that I would listen to hype myself up, what was it called? I think it was by,
Dolly Parton.
I don't even, close. It's the one that says, I can't punch hard enough, I can't fight fast enough, I can't punch fast enough, I can't die dead enough, or something like that.
Sounds like a Dolly Parton song. Yeah, like
Yeah.
95 probably. Yeah.
I want to say it was like a Motley Crue and it was called Dead Enough or something like that. It was not, it did not get a lot of play on radio or like that, but I loved that song. And that was the one that like I'd play before I went into anything if I could really
So
rip
this
myself
episode will
up. So it's
drop in
probably
what,
that one.
like 2 weeks, we think? Probably 2 weeks this one will drop.
Probably.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that on May 21st by 10 a.m., Charles will have texted me the name of the song you just referenced and the band that performed it, and probably also the album on which it appeared. I'll bet you he's going to be our guy on this one, and he'll know it right off the bat.
Oh, it's okay. Here it is. I found it. It's called Die Dead Enough by Megadeth, 2004.
Okay, never
There you
mind.
go.
Charles probably
Yes.
knew that, but Doug ruined it and stole his moment in the sun and in the spotlight.
Yeah, that's fine. I can't have Charles supersede me like every week. Don't be ridiculous. Oh
Why
wait,
not? I do.
shit.
It's fine.
He's on this chart. He's right between Chimpanzee and King Cobra. Who would you beat in a fight,
Charles
Charles?
is.
All right, next large dog. Americans said 22% they would win. Brits said, ooh, 12, 13? 13%. We'll say 13%.
Yeah. This is the last one where I'm confident I would win. After
Yes.
this, it's straight downhill for me. I think this is my last chance, but I do believe I would beat the dog. But also because, as part of our law enforcement training, like we learn a lot about dog behavior and how to deal with this.
You
And
have
I
to.
know that if you present a certain target, they'll go for that target and you can deal with them from that point. So I feel like I know how to deal with a large dog. I'm not worried about that so much. I'm going to get fucked up. My arm is going to get fucked up, but I'm going to win that fight. I'm
Yeah,
going to
and
have
same
exactly one messed up arm, but I'm going to be the one that lives.
similar line of reasoning I had with the eagle versus medium sized dog too. Like
Yeah.
I think my chances of success with a large dog are basically the same as a medium sized dog, but I will get damaged more. Like same kind of concept. I will get damaged, but I think I'll have the same quote win rate as I would with a medium sized dog. It's just a different.
See, I think it's a little less, but it's
It's a
because
tad lower because you're dealing with a bigger animal with more muscle, but same kind of thing. When you get hit and then you make your move and you just make sure your move is final.
yeah, I think there's a greater chance they get the radial artery here. I think the way that you beat a dog is you present an arm and let it attack your arm, and it will always do that. The first target you present, it'll take. So you wrap something around your arm and you hold your arm out, it's going to jump at your arm, and
Well, and
then
that
you
was
can
my
go for
plan
its
with the
throat
medium
or its
dog.
balls or whatever. Yeah, it works for a large dog too.
Well, and
But the difference is
that's always been my
the
that's
large
always been
dog
my
with
plan though. Yeah.
right, but with the large dog and the greater bite strength and the more muscle mass, there's a much greater chance that it's going to actually get to your radial artery and it's going to kill you because no matter what you do at that point, if it latches on and it punctures that, you're just toast. So
Well,
that's
yeah.
why I think it's a slightly less chance. Like the medium sized dog, I don't look at as a contest, but this one, this one is where the dog's got a chance to get me. It really does.
Well, maybe part of this is because I have actually specifically watched for, how to fight large dog videos. And
There
it's
you go.
interesting. The one video that I found most compelling was that basically you kind of let the dog tackle you. Like I said, present an arm, let the dog, and then you sort of fall back and roll onto your back as
Oh
the
my
dog
God,
is
no.
leaping up on you. Well, no, present the
Oh,
arm, dogs go after the arm, and then you roll kind of onto your back straight backwards with the dog on top of you, lash your arm. Then you put your legs up and basically like choke the dog out with your
that's an
legs. And
awful
then you've
idea
got to,
because now you're
no, it's
giving the
not.
dog a venue to overpower you and get to your throat. And that's ultimately what they want to do. And you can't win once they do that. You
Well,
want to keep
no.
this thing as far from your throat as possible. You let it hang from your arm and you punch it in its throat and you kick it in the balls and you work the soft spots in the underbody. And that's how you win the fight against this dog is while it's hanging from your arm, you blade hand the crap out of its throat and its balls. That's how
Well,
you do it.
this video said it was the one of two things. It's present the arm, let them latch onto the arm. Then if it's especially if you're like a smaller person like a woman, then you roll back so that you can get your legs up and around the dog's neck. And then you've got the dog. Or if you're big enough, then yeah, you like turn over and wrap the dog up with your thighs and your leg while still standing. But that was why I referenced it that way. Was it's a way to let the dog latch on, and then you have your second to get control of the dog, basically, and then you can just roll and lie on the ground. You got the dog by the neck, so your rolling is going to dominate, judo style kind of thing with it.
I think if you're
That's your
small
best
enough that
chance.
I think if you're small enough that you're concerned about getting this thing on the ground because you can't stay standing with it, I think you're in a bad spot and you don't want to give this thing a path of your neck. That's my opinion. It's not how we were trained to do it at all. And
Well, that's fair. I mean,
I
to
feel like you
me,
want to
if I
keep a
have an
finger
arm
through.
up, I've already, in my mind, I already have a block to my neck because I've got my arm up in front of me, and that's what I'm presenting to the dog first.
Yeah. I
But
don't
and
like
again,
that approach. But
this is a wildly different question for men and women, though, too, when you
that's
talk
true.
large dog,
Yep.
because like the same kind of thing I'd read the one time. Just give dogs 3 times their weight when you're talking about like humans.
Yeah.
And the reason they said it was because an 80-pound German Shepherd has the same strength as roughly a 225-pound male. And that's kind of what they use as a reference. Like that's your even footing is an 80-pound German Shepherd is like a big man.
Okay.
And you can outsmart it and all that, but that's kind of what you're dealing with. So that's why I think for me this doesn't seem like such a big deal because I'm a German Shepherd type of thing.
You know what I'll
But for
do
plenty of
too?
other people it's not.
I have videos from when I was in the police academy of us wearing the suit and getting attacked by dogs. And we'll put some of those up on Patreon so people can see, So there are some funny moments in there and there's some
Yeah.
kind of yeah, whatevers. But if you wanna see that, we'll put that on the Patreon. And for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can log on there and see some police academy training videos
Get
of
Tom getting bit in the ass.
mine was pretty boring because the dog
I'd
didn't even take me down. But there
I'd
are
pay a
some
lot to see that actually.
that disturbs me a little bit. But
by
also how
by a
much?
dog,
But how much? Because we
not
might be
by
willing.
not by
Sure.
Bonnie Blue.
Depending on what that price is, I might be willing to accommodate you. What's that price look like?
Hmm. Is this USD?
Yes, yes. I'm not interested in Trump coin.
Hmm.
Thank you. But I'll put those videos on Patreon. So we've at least got a couple. One of them is fantastic, and I will put some copy and context in there as to why
It's
I
the one you
appreciate that
sent
one
me,
so
isn't
much.
it?
It is. Oh
Yeah.
goodness. Never has anyone deserved to be tackled by a dog as
Such
much
a
as that video.
coward. She was so cowardly.
So cowardly. And she deserved every last anyway.
Anyway,
All right, on to the next one because this is where,
chimpanzee.
yeah, from here on down, there's only one of them left on the entire list that I feel like I could take. From here on down, all but one of these would probably kill my ass,
Including chimpanzee.
including chimpanzee. Yeah, I'm not messing with a
Interesting.
chimpanzee.
Oh, that's interesting. I would say 2.5 for me. Okay, chimpanzee.
Then you're more of a badass than I am, sir. I
Okay,
officially
well,
hand you the belt.
obviously. Chimpanzee, American men 18%, British men 10%, more or less. For me, I think this is one of those like 0%. Like I'm fucked.
Yep, I'm with you.
Like if the chimpanzee is actually angry, like actually wanting to do me harm, I'm fucking dead. They are so fucking strong. I think this is the like they look kind of dopey, they've got the like they're like basically like the gingers of the apes, so everyone doesn't really like, it just doesn't take them seriously and they usually have the like floof of hair going up and they
Yep,
got like the early balding, the receding hairline.
yep.
But they I mean, and again, maybe it's partly the information I've been exposed to, but my mother, the doctor, said one time because we were at the zoo, of course, and she was like, "Yeah, they actually can rip a human male man's limbs off
Yeah,
when
literally
they're
pull
looking at
your
the
arm
chimp.
off.
They can literally, if they decide to, they will rip your arm clean out of its socket, flesh and all. They have the strength to do that, and I can't. You want me to fight that thing? Like,
That
I
3% DNA difference makes a big
I
difference.
I would have to get like I mean, you want to talk about luck? Like if it's coming after me, probably jumping from a fucking tree, like dive bombing my ass, I would have to do some sort of like Neo style jump out of the way while also poking it in the eyes. And then in the brief moment that it's stunned from getting poked in the eyes, assuming my fingers didn't break from like hitting it in the eyes, I'd have to swoop around it and get it into a chokehold and be in the perfect position where it wouldn't grab my ankle and rip me right off of it. That's my only chance of like actually beating this thing. And that's got to be, you know,
Yeah.
2 or 3% tops if I'm like on my game and ready.
Yep.
If I'm not, it's got to be 0.5% maybe. Like this is a loss for me for sure.
Yep, it's a loss for me. I don't have anything else to contribute to this. The chimpanzee would kick my booty, and I'm sad but comfortable admitting that. It's just what it is.
Right?
It's just what it is. If I'm unarmed, a chimpanzee beats me, and it's that simple.
Hmm. Boy, even armed too. Like if you only have 9 millimeter and you don't make good hits, you might still be done. You know.
No, if I'm armed, put the money on me. I'm good with that.
All right, fair. Well, it's true. You do have your shooting prowess, so there's that. For someone like me, like I gotta hope. All right, next, King Cobra.
I'm dead again.
U.S. is 16%, and Brits are what 8%, I guess. See, this is one of those ones where I think I have a better chance than the chimpanzee. I'm gonna give myself like a 20-25% chance here, because same thing. I'm gonna get damaged. I'm gonna get damaged a lot. But if I can manage to shield my neck and my face, I at least have a chance to grab it and work from there.
You know they got poisonous venom, right? Like you know that'll kill you. It's lethal. Their venom. We're aware of this, right? So
Yeah.
if it bites you, you're not just damaged. You're
Well, so
dead.
okay, so here's my thing. And this is maybe unfair of me, but I view this as being not in like everyday world like I'm walking down the street, but like I can have a fight and then I call on the cell phone and be like, "Hey, I just got attacked." Like I might still have a chance to get to anti-venom here. Like
I'm curious.
I'm viewing like, that, and this is going to sound weird, but I'm viewing certain things like in with the rat and the house cat. I'm imagining getting attacked like in my apartment by like my own house cat or by like an intruder rat. With the goose, I'm imagining I'm walking around a park and some like fucking rabid goose just assaults me when I'm walking next to like the pond or something like that. But I'm still around sort of people, dog, eagle, large dog. I'm in another like park, nature-ish type of setting. Someone's walking by on the street with a dog kind of thing. Chimpanzee, I don't honestly know wherever the fuck I am. I'm probably in the zoo, but like chimpanzee's just got me. Like I can't get away if he's got a hold of me. But so like for a king cobra, I'm probably somewhere in the desert, and
I think
it's
India
an
is what you're
open.
talking about here.
Jeez, what the fuck?
Never saw
What am I?
cobra in the desert.
What am I doing there? But like, I'm trying to envision like quote where I'd be, and I do think if I can get out the other end of the fight, I at least have some sort of like, "Hey, come help" kind of thing that I can send out, some sort of beacon. So to me, I win if I end up surviving, even with some help after the fact. If we're talking about like apocalypse, there's no help after this fight. Yeah, I'm fucking dead because I'm not expecting to get out of this fight without a bite or two or 17. But if I can, get a hold of this thing quickly, then I can get to anti-venom. So that's why I at least give myself the 20% chance. Is like I take 2 bites, I still get a hold of it, and then I can, finish it off before too long, and then I can get to anti-venom. That's why I'm giving myself that shot. But
Okay.
it
All right.
I am not having I'm not even treating this is not a large sized dog to me where I'm like, yeah, I'd probably win. This is like, fuck this. I do not want any part of this.
Nope, I want no part of that. I had a snake growing up, and it wasn't even a venomous snake. It was a constrictor. It was a wood snake. And I remember how fast this thing struck when we put a mouse in there. And I
Hmm.
just remember the first time I saw it going, oh my God, what happened? Like, if I
Yep,
blinked, I would
it's
have missed that. And
lightning
so,
fast
right. And so the cobra is going to bite you. If you're fighting a cobra in this Coliseum, it's going to bite you.
for
I was
sure.
curious, so I Googled real quick, and it looks like 30 minutes is the general guideline. You've got ballpark.
Right.
It'll kill you in 30 minutes with no treatment. You don't have more than 30 minutes without treatment. And it seems as though it can kill you as quickly as 10 minutes. So you've
Ooh,
got more
okay.
time than I thought, but still
Well,
not a lot of
I'll
time.
lower my chances to 15% then instead of 20 and 25
Yeah.
then
But
with that 10
if we've
minutes.
got a medical staff standing by and you
You
can end
know,
that fight in a couple of minutes, then you know what? I think it's a better chance than I
I'm
really.
kind of fat. I probably have more like
There
20
you
minutes
go.
instead of 10.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So
knew
you
I
might be
was
all right.
doing this for a reason.
Yeah, I'm going to swing toward your side with this. That maybe I could survive this thing.
Oh, what's that?
Win
You're
still seems
training for your
wrong.
beach bod? Stupid. What if a king cobra attacks you?
That's great. An interesting point
Idiot.
on this one with the king cobra, 23% of American men thought that they could defeat a king cobra.
Interesting. Yes, that's
This is
too
one of the
high. That's
biggest
not.
differences in men and women. 8%
Oh.
of women said they could do it.
And that's probably very realistic, maybe even a little high. I mean, most women just, I don't know if you could handle like a, well, because king
Less body
cobras can,
mass, the venom's going to hit you faster.
most king cobras are between 8 and 12 feet, I think, when they're adults. They can get up to like 15 feet, maybe a tad more.
Big snake. Okay.
I did a report on king cobras when I was in
I
grade
believe
school.
you. Yeah.
They can become monster snakes, but even still, you're dealing with a fucking thing that's like as long as a car if you stretch it out. Like this is not a little
Yeah.
thing either. So yeah. Next, I wonder if this is the one that you think you could take. Kangaroo.
Yes.
Okay. Kangaroo is 14% America and like 5% Brits.
Yeah, I can take kangaroo. I'm not worried about that. And this
Same
goes
here.
back. This goes back to the Mike Tyson quote. Like I've seen the videos of guys that go out to save their dog and they box a kangaroo and punch a kangaroo, and the kangaroo gives up. Like
Right.
kangaroos are mean, but they're like bullies. They're only mean as long as they think that they're gonna win. Fuck a kangaroo. I'll punch a kangaroo in the face, to quote Dane Cook, and replace bees with kangaroos. I'm not worried about a kangaroo. I see guys in these videos with no striking ability go out there and throw like a drunk Patty's punch, and it works. I'll
And once they
box a
get one hit, the
kangaroo any day.
kangaroo's done. Yeah.
Right. I'll box that sucker. I would look like Muhammad Ali against the kangaroo. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, screw a
And
kangaroo.
I agree. I would be able to take a kangaroo. I feel like it's one of those if the kangaroo's like on PCP, like
Well,
then
I've got
you
one of
know,
those fights under my belt too. I survived that one.
he was not a kangaroo.
No, but he was bigger than one and he was on PCP.
Right. But
Screw that guy.
that's why I'm sitting at like the angriest kangaroo I can think of who just doesn't fucking give up. Okay, I'm not 100% winning, but like, come on, I got to give myself at least like 70 or 75%, something like that, right? Like at least. So yeah,
No, I'm
kangaroo.
giving myself that 100%. I'll take a kangaroo. You
Yeah,
can
I'd
fight
get
the
the fuck
cobra.
out
I'll
of here.
fight the kangaroo. I'm
Okay.
happy with that arrangement.
I'm not
I'm
happy with that
super
arrangement.
happy with that arrangement.
I still much prefer the kangaroo, sir.
That's fair. And then the next one, I also kind of feel like I would have a chance, but I think that's me puffing myself up.
Well, and this was my 2.5. The cobra was like my half. The wolf was my like other one.
Yeah,
So
I
wolf is
treat
the
I
next
treat the
one.
wolf like a large dog in a lot of ways, except that it is bigger and that there's always more than one of those buggers. So I don't believe it's one wolf.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the
Well,
Velociraptor Jurassic Park.
coyotes are more of the pack animal though.
No, wolves are
wolf.
packs, buddy.
Yeah, I know, but if you get attacked by okay, this but again, single wolf. That's the scenario.
Single wolf. Okay,
Pack
yeah,
of
maybe
wolves.
I could take a wolf. Maybe.
Yeah, that's and that same thing. This is a large dog. I'd say same odds, but minus 5 to 7% of whatever you think you can do with a large dog. So, to
If a
me, this is
large dog is a Rottweiler or a pit bull, then I think it's probably about the same. So if I believe
yeah.
I can take a large dog, I should probably also believe I can take a
Well,
wolf,
I'm just
a
thinking
solo wolf.
large dog I have in my mind similar to like the PCP kangaroo. I have like a 75 85% like I'm gonna win for sure kind of feeling per se.
Yeah.
It's more of a lucky strike from the dog that gets me. Wolf is like again to me it's like that's like minus 10% because it's kind of like it's a bigger large dog with a little bit more of that wild in it. So instead of being 80%, I'm like 60%. So I still
You know,
think I win, but
I'm changing my mind on this one. I'm taking the wolf. I'm good. I'm gonna beat the wolf. This is the last one that I'll beat on this list. But I'm gonna beat the wolf. And not only am I gonna beat this wolf, but I'm then gonna skin the fucker and I'm gonna wear its pelt and I'm gonna come back and haunt my daughter as a skin.
I don't know, man. Liam Neeson, and they made it seem like Liam Neeson didn't beat the wolf, and like he can beat anything. So
No, no.
in the gray or
I'm
whatever it was.
apparently my daughter is still convinced that I'm Yinad Lushi, so I'm taking the wolf and I'm winning this one and I'm wearing its pelt and that's all there is to this.
Okay, fair
I'm
point. That's
stalking
true.
the
We
woods wearing the sucker's
forgot
pelt.
about your Magic Mountain shit
Yep.
with go-karts and everything.
With go-karts and everything. I'm taking the sucker down. However, I am also extremely comfortable saying that the rest of this list, I am
Oh,
fucked. There
um,
is 0%.
yes, same. Rest of this list, I'm completely screwed. I will grant myself a teensy tiny chance.
Nope. I might escape alive. I'm not winning. There's no world in which I'm winning a fight with these.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, that's a good distinction. I think escaping alive. Yeah, I could escape alive from
And one of these things will kill
two
me
of
twice.
these.
We've established that one of these will kill me
Right.
twice.
Yeah. All right. So next one is a crocodile.
Yeah, nope. Nope, I lose. Done.
See, if this thing attacks me in even like shin high water, I'm fucked completely. 0% chance. If it attacks me on land, similar to the chimpanzee, like I might be able to get on top of it and just wait it out kind of thing. Like I'm giving myself, but see, here's the thing. Don't shake your head like that. I'm giving myself like a 2% chance if it attacks me on land, like full on it's angry. I have a chance to like do some matrix shit, like pull one good move and get a little bit lucky and then I'm good. Like, but if you're a betting man, you do not bet that I'm going to win this, even on land for sure. If I got an angry crocodile coming after me,
Yeah.
that's easy.
I'm
But
not
and
even
again,
giving myself 2%. No, the
it's
crocodile
zero
would.
percent in even on land, like just
Yeah,
on
even on
land,
land.
nothing really
I could
interesting.
I can outrun an alligator on land, maybe, because I know that you just cut the angles back and forth and they give up eventually because they have a hard time doing that. So maybe. But crocodiles are so big and so fast and they can sprint at a ridiculous rate. I don't even think I can get away from this thing on land. I think a crocodile, unless it decides it doesn't want to mess with me anymore, I think I'm just food.
But what if you do both? What if you kind of like zigzag as you back up a little bit and confuse it just enough to then jump on it?
Why would I want to jump on it and give this thing a chance at getting me again? Do you know how they destroy things? They
Well, if
roll.
you're
Like
yeah, but
how they attack things and kill things is by rolling. Do
yeah,
I
but
wanna be
when
on its back if it's rolling? I don't think I
well
do.
in the water, no.
No, anywhere. That I
And
don't think I wanna be there anywhere.
on the land, you're at least rolling in the same. So, but how else are you gonna defeat it? What are you gonna like punch it in the fucking nose? No, you got to get on it and ride the lightning, baby. You got to hold on and wait for it to exhaust itself, and then you can, damage it by poking
I
its
agree
eyeballs
that's
and
your
stuff
only
like that.
path to victory. I agree that that's the only chance you have, but
Your
I
path to
think
victory is on land and getting on top of it somehow, like Steve Irwin style.
yeah.
It can be done. He's
Well,
proven it. Stingrays are the problem.
that's fair. Okay, so I'm gonna get on this thing's back, and I'm gonna stick a thumb up its bum, and I'm gonna hope that that gets the job done. I think
That is
that's
not the. I'm really concerned that you keep searching for Bonnie Blue. I think you're getting some weird ideas.
well, isn't that the joke about, who did the joke about, white men are crazy because all they want to do is go out and encounter wild animals in their environment and stick thumbs up their bums? There was a comedian who did a whole bit on that.
Bonnie Blue?
No, no, I said a
Oh,
comedian.
okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I
Um,
thought you were being funny.
no, I'm dead serious. There's a real comedic bit, a stand-up bit.
This sounds like a George Carlin joke. Honestly, is what it sounds like.
No, it's much more recent than that. I'll have to look that one up. Put the links in the show
All
notes for
right.
there too. But it turns out crocodiles can sprint about 20 miles an hour. I pulled it up real quick. Um,
Yeah.
about 20 miles an hour. So they're about as fast as the fastest human
For
beings that
like
have ever
they
lived.
do it for like 50 meters, something like that. It's not very far, but they can still
Yeah,
cover the distance quickly if they want to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So we agree. If there is any chance, it's on land and it's still, yeah, it's definitely not worth betting on. Okay. Next one, gorilla. I'm giving myself a flat zero.
Yep, I'm with you.
I I'm because the question says if you were unarmed. I think it's a zero. I
I
don't
think that
care.
gorilla would unarm me in a very different way. I
Yes,
think it would literally
just
pull
like
both of
the
my arms off like the
chimpanzee.
chimp. Yep.
Yeah, it's. I don't
No
think there's a
interest.
single unarmed situation where I'm like, yeah, of course I could. I can't even give myself some Matrix style shit. I just can't like. I could give it my best, perfect, most powerful punch, right in the nose, right in the eyeball, whatever, and it wouldn't do anything. It would go because it would hurt a little bit, and then it would grab my face and crush my skull.
Yeah.
Just there's no situ. I don't think there's any situation where the only reason I would ever be in this situation is I am hoping that the gorilla destroying my body and grinding my bones to make its bread would be enough time for the rest of my family to get away wherever we were. But that would be it for me. Bye bye. I would not survive unless the gorilla let me survive.
Agreed 100%.
I have
I'm toast.
0% chance no matter what the setting is here.
And that's how I feel about everything left on our list.
I know, right? Okay, so we'll just go through these real quick. The list on the list is gorilla, lion, elephant, grizzly bear. That's going down the list. American men basically said, well, what is this? Like 8% on gorilla, lion, and elephant. And
Yep,
then American
8% on
men
each.
said like probably 6 or 5% on
6 on the
grizzly
grizzly
bear.
bear. Yep.
And then Brits were at like 1 or 2% for all of those gorilla, lion, elephant, grizzly bear.
So we have a fun fact about the lion one. If you're on the YouGov website and you go down to the gender demographic differences,
What?
7% of men said they could defeat a lion. 8% of women said they could defeat a lion. It's the only category where more women said they could defeat it than men. But more women believe they could beat a lion in one-on-one combat than men.
That makes zero sense.
I agree completely. I don't know. But that's what it says. That's the one place where I see a gender discrepancy on this chart of theirs. 7% of men said they could take a lion.
That just,
8% of women said they could do it.
we were just at the zoo 3 days ago, and when we got to the lions, there were two lionesses and one, male lion. The male lion was being a lazy fuck. He was sitting towards the back of the rocks, like sleeping. The two lionesses were up front at the glass and everything, looking at stuff. And as we were walking up, someone had a dog there, and the lion was like real fucking frisky about this dog, like kind of like poking at the glass and like looking at it and following it around, like looking at this thing like it was fucking lunch.
Yeah.
And it's this is such an enormous creature. No, 0%. I don't care what setting, 0%. This thing, I I might have a chance to get out alive if the terrain or other things allow me a certain amount of cover to like wait it out until it gets bored and goes away. That's the only scenario I'm living in here. Otherwise, these things are huge, strong animals. I don't think. No, no, no.
Yeah, I agree. No chance. And if you think that you're beating a lion in one-to-one unarmed combat, you're lying.
There was a story of a guy who killed a mountain lion, a cougar, with his bare hands. However long ago that was, we might have even mentioned it on this. I don't know if we did. And he was, he was a big dude. He was like a 6'1", 200 and some pound, hikes all the time. Noticed a mountain lion was stalking him. And in his own words, he got extraordinarily lucky. When the lion leapt on him, he had been watching it and was ready for it. He managed to poke it in the eye, which stunned it for a second, and then he got around behind it and he like chokeholded it and choked it to death. And he said that while he choked it to death, it still like scratched him 3 or 4 times, and he still had to go to the ER and get, like he still had to have help with like stopping the bleeding, stuff like that. And he was telling people like, I should not have survived this. This is extraordinarily lucky. Like, yes, I killed a mountain lion with my bare hands, but like I got super duper lucky. And even when I was getting lucky, I was still getting severely damaged.
Right.
And a mountain lion is like half the size of
Not
a
even.
regular lion, maybe even less.
It's definitely less.
This is like a full grown, tough ass dude who hikes in like the fucking like Rockies and shit.
Mountain
And
lions are like 150 pounds, and a
right, this
lion is like 550 pounds. So you're
on the
talking
bigger
about
side. I think
three times the
that's a
size.
bigger side.
We can look it up again. We've been googling the
We
crap
are
out of this
gonna
stuff tonight.
we are going to look it up.
It's been a night of who's right. I guess since I was right about that one thing, Doug's like, no, not again. I'm fact checking everything now. Never again will I let Tom be right. Although I was right about the eagle speed. So
I'm pretty sure you're wrong on this one. I think they're more like twice the size. Okay, let me find it.
I'm sticking with mountain lion about 150 pounds and a lion about 500 pounds. That's what I'm sticking with.
Now I just wish the AI was here.
Words that we have never said on this podcast before.
Male lions can weigh up to 500 pounds and stand up to 4.5 feet at the shoulder. Females are slightly smaller and weigh between 270 and 350. Lion average. I search size. Let me search weight.
There you go.
It makes more sense. Okay, so a male lion is 420 pounds. A female lion is 280.
Wow. Okay.
So there. So
my 500 wasn't far off.
no, 500 is not too far off, but we're talking about
and how big is a
twice.
bobcat?
Yeah, let's do. You gotta be a bobcat. Do a
Sorry,
mountain
a mountain
lion.
lion, a cougar.
Jesus,
How big is a cougar?
Man.
I'm thinking of the mountain lion in my yard now, or
Okay,
the bobcat in my yard. Sorry, but a mountain lion, a cougar. I'm thinking about 150-ish.
A male cougar, 120 to 160. Another thing says 125. Female, the range on this thing is 75 to 110, or on the other side, 100 pounds. So,
okay. So a lion's about 3 times as big. I was right.
Yeah, male to female. Let's see. The male is Oh, interesting. The male is probably about 3 times the size, whereas the female is more like 2.5 times. It's a little bit closer on the female side. Okay, but
And I just envisioned a male lion. I went with the first thing I
yeah, yeah,
think of
yeah,
is
yeah.
the mane. So, in all fairness, the first thing I envisioned was a male lion.
Well, but that's the point with this is that like a mountain lion unarmed, you're extremely lucky you get out alive if you're a pretty big dude. And now we're talking about something that's at least 2.5 times
Yeah.
that size. No, you're fucked.
Yeah,
All
we're done.
right,
It's just sorry. I
again,
don't know what the
maybe
7% of
there's
men and 8% of women were thinking
there's
about when
like
they
a
said yes.
I'll give you that there's like a 1 in 1,000, like you're unarmed, but you manage to get a sharpened stick in the middle of it or something. Like, I don't even know what how do you the
You need
lion
a
has
range weapon. Yeah.
the lion has a seizure right as it's launching at you. I don't know.
Yeah, that's about what I can think of.
You
Yeah.
know, like I just
And even then, you still have to dodge the thing because once it's launched, you still have to dodge it. Even if it
I
has an
mean,
aneurysm midair, it's still going to hit you and hurt.
there are some ancient Greek Roman kind of stories of like the absolute beasts of men, the old like gladiators, Colosseum fighters who supposedly beat lion, won against lions with their bare hands. I'll grant that there may have been actual men who have done this before, but this is like back in the day before first world comforts. These are probably your like so like the guys who are on the world's strongest man competition where they literally lift 550 pounds and carry it. Like it's these dudes.
Well, maybe nutrition was harder
Maybe
back then, so people weren't as big. Like generally speaking, people were
no,
not
but
as big and muscular back then.
the people were just tougher. They were
Sure.
just
Yes.
tougher. So you have an absolute mountain of a man by that time frame at least who just has been hardened by literal life. Maybe that's like your 1 in 1,000 or less kind of guy, and that's why they wrote about these people because they're fucking 1 in 100,000 or whatever that even existed. I'll grant you maybe something like that, maybe, but for just surveys, no, your
I'm
chances
still
are
calling
zero.
bullshit.
It's
No.
well, 1 in 1,000 rounds down to zero.
That's true. Is the lion the biggest cat in the world, or is the tiger bigger? Tiger's probably bigger, right?
Tiger is the biggest actually. Tigers average something like 550 or whatever
It's a big
on
cat.
punch.
Yeah.
They're bigger, dude.
Okay.
And they're stronger too. There's that video. There's a video of a lion leaping at a guy who's riding on an elephant.
Eesh.
And like he swipes and basically like pretty much gets at least at the guy's leg. Like fucking 10 feet leaps, swipes. You're not even safe on top of a fucking elephant if a tiger doesn't like you.
Wow.
Next, elephant.
This is the one that'll
Um
kill you twice, as we've covered in
This is,
previous
the
episodes.
elephant will fuck you over twice. I can't. Yeah, an elephant you'll I don't think I think you can't win against an elephant because I mean unless people think unarmed and then you're in the savannah and you get a stick later to
Well, how do you hurt an elephant?
stab
Like, what
right.
do you do that you think you can hurt an elephant?
You
In all
stab it
seriousness,
later after it falls asleep in the middle of your fight. I don't you
I,
can't
I
choke
feel
out
like
an
unarmed
elephant.
is unarmed, right? I
Right,
mean,
right. You can't.
if
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
giving me a spear, if you're giving me a long spear, I feel like I gain a significant percentage of chance against a lot of these animals.
Yeah, like three.
No, you give me a long spear against a lion or a wolf, I feel like I'm okay. Like a
No.
wolf, if I have a long spear against a wolf, I'm super happy.
Okay, against a wolf, maybe. Against a
Like
lion, no.
against a
You're still
lion, it's
screwed.
still
Oh,
not great, but their primary attack is to leap, right?
well,
So if
right,
I've
but
got a
that's
long spear I can plant in the ground and time against your leap, then I've got a shot.
okay.
A
But you've got to get a
gorilla,
good shot.
maybe.
Even still, you hit the lion in the shoulder, it gets mad, and then it just swats you with its other arm, and you're fucking dead. Like
Yeah,
a
I think
lion,
the
you're
spear
still.
bumps that up at least 25%. I really
Oh,
do.
I disagree hardcore. I think a long spear and something like this, I think you're getting like 5%,
Oh no,
seven
I think you're
percent
just being a
chance.
pansy. Okay.
Okay, fine. I can be a pansy. You've got to get that. I mean, really, you're going to be tried and true on your spear placement mid fight on a lion leap.
Well, the
It,
thing is, you can keep it at bay. You can keep it at a distance better, and eventually you poke at
how
this
long
thing
is
enough
this
with it.
spear? 8 feet, 12 feet? How long is this thing?
Well, I wouldn't want one 12. I wouldn't know how to wield one that's 12 feet.
That's what I mean.
I
Like,
feel like 6 foot. Anything that's about the length of a bow staff is something I'd be comfortable wielding.
boy,
Maybe 8 feet would be. I could probably
see,
deal with
I
8 feet.
I still can't give it that though, because that's still pretty close quarters. I mean, this is a big animal. Its
It
reach
is.
is going to be 3 or 4 feet right away. So
But
if
you
you're
can
not,
shape a lot with that spear. You can
yeah,
shape
but
a lot of how
if you're
things
not
progress.
on your game or you make one thrust and you miss, like then
Dude, I'm
it's
fighting
useless.
a lion. I'm fucked anyway.
Exactly. So you go from 0 to like 5%, not 0 to
No,
20%.
I'd give
Jesus.
myself 20 or 25% if
Nope.
I had a spear. I'm giving
That's
myself 0 without, but you give me a
that's
spear, I'm
interesting
much higher.
because
Yeah.
I'm 0% without, and with the spear, I'm giving myself 5 or 7%.
You
And
give me
I'm
a
not
baseball
thinking,
bat, I'm not giving myself any points.
no,
Like 0. You give me
no,
a
still
sword, maybe I'm giving myself 2 to 5%,
3%.
maybe.
Yeah.
But you
No,
give me a long spear, and I feel like that's
nope.
very different, and I've got a
I,
shot. I'll take
I'm
it.
not giving myself more than 5%, even with a long spear. Even if like even in the male hero mind where I'm like, oh, then I do this. I have a plan. Like I do this when it's moved. No, I'm still fucking I need to hit the heart on that strike slash lunge.
No,
Otherwise I'm screwed.
no, it doesn't have to be the heart right
Maybe the
away.
neck. Maybe the neck, but
Anywhere in
just
the guts, you can immobilize that thing.
but
It
here's the
needs
thing.
legs to pounce.
But also
There's a lot of ways to get
it's a
there.
cat. It's fast. It's not just like when it's leaping. It's like
It's
it
not a
can
king cobra fast. It's still a big, bulky animal. And if you've got a spear and some distance, I think you can make
nah,
that work.
it's still a cat. It's a big cat. It's still fucking
All right,
fast.
I'm
I
standing by it. I've got
fine.
25% chance if I have a spear.
Well, that's your then we finally found where you're unreasonable. All right, elephant, yes, but elephant,
No,
what are you
cooked against
gonna
an
do?
elephant. Yeah,
What are you gonna do? You can't
nothing.
choke out an elephant. You can't even like hang on its ear or some shit.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
what are you gonna do?
and the elephant is the first one where I can
Who
look at it
thinks
and
that
be like, even if you give me a firearm, if it's not a huge gauge, I'm still fucked. And if it's
right?
a
Like
huge gauge, I'm probably still in trouble.
who even the Brits, like even the Brits are stupid here. This should be 0%. Who thinks they could be an elephant unarmed? What are you gonna do?
I agree. This is the dumb. Unless Chuck Norris, and again, like him
Like
and Rag Reynolds are the only two people that should be saying yes to this. Literally, no one else.
punch a house. Like an elephant is like punch a house. Did you hurt it?
No,
Like in this one spot, kind of in the one
and a house
drywall.
doesn't
Like,
punch back.
well, this what again? If okay, if you happen to be listening to us and you happen to think you have a above 0% chance to be an elephant, your dad homework is to go to a fucking zoo.
No, no. Don't do that. Your dad homework is to send us an email and tell us why we're wrong. That's your dad homework. I want to
Okay,
hear the logic. I
and
want to know
okay,
why
fine.
you can
Hear
beat
the
an elephant.
logic, and then
That's what
I
I want.
will respond back in the email. Go to a fucking zoo. Go to the elephant exhibit. Wait for a fucking elephant to be just like within 5 or 10 feet of whatever the barrier is that you're standing on the other side of, and fucking look at it.
Yeah,
Just look at it, and imagine yourself punching it, climbing on it, hitting it. Even imagine the elephant gives you a head start of like 5 or 10 seconds.
right.
What the fuck are you gonna do? You can't even climb up on top of it because it's not like a tree. It doesn't have branches that you can just easily like jump on and
Right.
climb up. Like it's got
And you
fucking
sure
legs.
as hell don't want to be under it. I mean, there
I
are no
mean,
other options.
oh yeah, I'm gonna grab its trunk and it's gonna lift up and freak out and I'm gonna get on top
No.
of it.
See, that
And
sounds like a
then what?
mammoth mistake.
You're gonna punch it in the head in its gigantic skull, like that's harder than your fucking butt. What the fuck are you gonna do?
You can go for the eyes. That's your only chance here.
You know what?
And
I
I wouldn't
haven't.
want to be anywhere near
But
that
then
head.
what? Okay, you blinded it.
Well, no, you can go through the eye and dig into the brain. Maybe like you get a shot. I don't know. I don't know how far you have to penetrate to do brain damage,
You're
but maybe you can penetrate far enough to do brain damage, which
you're
eventually kills the
with what?
elephant.
Your arm, like with your forearm?
I mean, they've got big eyes and big eye sockets, so maybe you can drive a whole hand in there. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, so I
Again,
need to.
this is not realistic. This is
I'm not.
foolishness.
I'm
This is,
not.
as I commented a moment ago, a mammoth mistake. I'm not saying this is a real thing,
Yes,
but similar to like your only chance against the crocodile, I guess your only chance against the elephant is probably to somehow drive your fist through its eye
I don't
and
know.
get into the brain somehow.
I think it's better to run and hide, or I heard your elephant joke, um,
Nice.
but I'm thinking like, okay, so what's your logic? You don't clip your fingernails for like 3 weeks. So that way you can actually scratch into that eyeball because this is a fucking elephant eye too. It's not gonna just like fucking pop out like a glass eye either. Like you gotta get in there and cut. Like what are you
Elephants
gonna do? I just
elephants' eyes are small, only an inch and a half in diameter.
that's
So
what I mean.
there goes that
They're
plan.
not big. They're not big.
Wow.
What are you gonna fucking do? I mean, do these people think that they'll be able to like what pop out one of its tusks and then like stab it? Like what do you fucking think? I don't get
I
it.
mean, that would be an approach, but I don't know how you get a tusk off.
But it's exactly that's the fucking point. You don't clip your fingernails for 5 weeks and then you slowly saw it off while you sit on top because you got there somehow by magic. Okay, last one. Grizzly bear. Again, 0%. I can't
Yeah.
believe anybody on the face of this planet would ever think above zero. It's got to be the same thing as an elephant, right? They think they'll just
Yeah.
somehow dodge it, get on top of it, and then what?
And then what is the moral of the story here? Yeah. No, you're
What?
dead.
Like,
You're done.
good, you're on top of it. It's gonna, you're gonna ride it like a bull in a ring for not just 8 seconds, but like 18 minutes until it exhausts itself and it literally can't move, and then you're going to what? Poke it in the eye? What are you gonna do? Unarmed. What are you gonna do to actually kill the thing? It's like the elephant. It's completely somehow it's freaking out while you're riding on top of it. It's completely exhausted. It slumps down on the ground. It has zero strength left. It's effectively paralyzed. You can do whatever you want to this thing for a half hour. It will not move a muscle because it is 100% exhausted. How do you fucking kill it unarmed? What do?
You don't.
You you can't cut off its airway. Your hands are you can't get around its airway. You can't do you do you
I don't know why we're even talking about this one. This is so ridiculous to
do
me.
you get a pillow and like cover its nose and its mouth and suffocate it? Like what the
No,
fuck
because
do
you're
you do?
unarmed. No pillows. You're
That's
unarmed.
right. No pillows, you're unarmed.
No
That's a
pillows.
t-shirt. Like what do you fucking do? You can't, like do these people imagine that they'll like hook their arm around the nose and the mouth and like suffocate? I think these people honestly imagine that they'd somehow like choke it out.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's like you can't choke out like it's too big. The circumference is not a thing. It's just not gonna work. It's not gonna
I
fucking
think
work.
people have been ruined by Disney. I think people think that grizzly bears are basically oversized puppy dogs and they're big and they're cute and they're furry and fluffy. And they forget that these things are gargantuan bowling
Oh
balls
my
of teeth
god.
and claws that will just rip you to pieces. And also, I would really have liked to have seen if they had done this, focused on these gender disparities, they had added just randomly, man. Because I'd be curious
Right.
to see how women would have answered, what
Against
percentage.
like a man versus the other
Right.
animals,
Just
yeah.
yep. And then I'd be very curious after the man versus bear episode and
You'd
controversy.
be like, well, we have proof right here.
I'd be super curious to see
Yeah.
that, and I kind of wish that was just another random average human being. And I'll bet you something like 90% of American men would be like, I'd be able to beat an average male, and I'd be
Right.
curious to see what those
Right.
numbers would look like,
Right.
because 90% of us believe that we're above average in America, which is crazy to me.
Well, just like 78% of people think they're above average drivers. It's
Yep.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No, this just
it's
uh
why 7/6 of Americans, believe they're good at math. It's
yes,
exactly why.
at least. And this is just I think I remember reading somewhere that with what they can do when they measure the strike, if you will, of a grizzly bear, like the smacking, like the grizzly bear punch, where it like does like sort of a right hook, full on, full force. Apparently, if it's a perfect hit, admittedly, like it's just standing there, like not defending itself, but a grizzly bear, like paw right hook is strong enough to break the neck of a male silverback gorilla.
Wow. That's
Like
impressive.
if a grizzly bear like got an unadulterated hit on a silverback gorilla's head, it could break its neck.
See, I think
Th-
of a gorilla as a stronger animal, so that's
It's not. They do the whole like the proverbial fight between a grizzly bear and an 800-pound silverback gorilla. It's like grizzly
wow.
bear wins easy. A grizzly bear is a much stronger animal than even a full size male silverback gorilla kind of thing. A grizzly bear is a hugely strong animal. I mean, an elephant might actually be able to put up with a grizzly bear because of its sheer size, but you talk about like actual strength striking, there might not be anything land stronger than a grizzly bear.
Okay.
It's this is you have zero chance against a grizzly bear unarmed. Zero.
Just zero. Yep. I agree.
Yep. I mean, not and even less zero than some of these other ones. Well, and
We're hitting 2 hours. We need to wrap this up. I
Yeah,
need
we
to
do.
take my dad butt to bed because I'm waking up in not even 4 hours now. Yeah, a little
Okay,
less
cool.
than 4 hours.
All right, bye. There, see, that's easy. Done.
Well, we still
You,
need dad jokes. I've got a whole
we
list
do.
of things I
Okay. All
wanted
right,
to
fine.
talk about. So
Let's do it real
unfortunately,
quick
it's gonna have to
because
wait.
yeah. All right, fair. We can do it. We can do it. Okay. I really have to pee.
Doug's little
should,
pregnant
should I
gallbladder.
should I do it for like 20 seconds and come back? Because I really want to lay into these jokes.
No, you got this. Suck it up. Clench your cheeks
I've already
and
been
squeeze.
sucking it up. I can't
Well,
do it.
you can do it. Are they themed? Oh, he's leaving. Oh, what a butthead. All right. Well, Doug is going because he has the bladder of I don't even know, like a third trimester woman who with an IV. He's running off to go pee pee. Couple of updates. So we've been falling behind on our oddities and some Patreon content. I have 5 different things I think I'm uploading this weekend that I'm super excited about. By the time this launches, I will have finally gotten up my Cannibal Cop odd. I will finally have that episode of the Dad Journal plus one that's a bit more on the happy and positive and upbeat side. I'm excited to have that one up there. I've got one that I'm working on right now. When my brother, just after my brother got married, I started working on a dad book of dad advice, something I wrote, sort of a light, familiar, humorous tone. And I had hoped to have it written for him and to hand it to him before his baby was born. And I failed miserably in that quest. It fell by the wayside when I had a lot of stuff that was trying to get done, and I never got it done. I've recently unearthed my writings on that, and it turns out I had like 10,000 words, 10 to 12,000 words of relatively clean copy written for that. I've dug it up. I am working on that. I'm going to have at least one read done for Dadvice that I'm going to put up, and I'm going to finish my book, and I'm going to try to publish the book. But yeah, so I'm going to have that done as an auditor, and you'll get a tone for kind of or a sample of my tone and my voice for this book and some humorous things. I talk a little bit about, welcome to being a dad, and I give some advice and kind of talk about the advice I'm hoping to give my kids one day on dadonomics and love and relationships, and I give some basic dad parenting advice in there. So that'll be a fun one. I promise it'll be light, it'll be streamlined. I'm sort of taking the best parts of that and adding it to that auditor. So tune into that on Patreon if you get a chance, because that'll be worth the price of admission, kind of all by itself. Doug is done exercising his extremely itty bitty, teeny weeny third trimester with an IV and bladder. So we're welcoming Doug back to the show now.
Let's not be sexist about this. Pregnant women are the best because they're procreating the rest of our race. Thank you very much.
I didn't deny that. I'm simply saying that they've got itty bitty little bladder capabilities like you.
First of all, I'm upset that you didn't say itsy bitsy yellow polka dot bladder.
I don't want to think about you in a bikini. That's why I didn't go there. I
Just
don't want
my
that thought.
bladder. Yes,
Nope.
you do.
Nope.
It's
Nope. We're good.
trans Doug is here for you. Okay.
All right, it's past my bedtime. Let's get to dad jokes. You've got a tiny bladder. You need to pee. We'll joke about this later.
I will explain myself later then. All right.
All of my dad jokes, by the way, are just they're not themed tonight.
Same.
I'm not bringing theme jokes.
Same.
But I've had people talk to me about the podcast lately, and now people want to tell me their dad jokes. I'm finally at this fun point where I turn people onto the cast and they listen and like, hey, I've got a good joke for you. And so now I've got some fun dad jokes. One that's a little bit dark. I don't have a hamster level joke tonight, which I'm kind of sad about.
I think that's okay. We need to not be so egregious. Same thing. I encountered some good jokes from people or otherwise, and I was like, I'm going to tell that.
Okay.
All right. What did the drummer name his twin daughters?
Drummer name his twin daughters.
I feel like if we didn't have to cut out dead air, you have an outside chance of getting there on this one.
Yeah, I think if I had a lot of time, given my musical involvement, I would get this one. But yeah, again, I have to be up in like 3 hours and 40 minutes. I don't know. What did he name his twin daughters?
Anna 1, Anna 2.
Yeah, that's cute. I like that. That's good. So a boy's sitting around a fire with his dad, and he looks up at his dad and he says, "Dad, are we pyromaniacs?" And his dad looked at him and said, "Yes, we are, son."
Nice. An old, blind cowboy wanders into an all-woman biker bar. by mistake. He finds his way to a bar stool and orders a shot of Jack Daniels. After sitting there for a while, he yells to the bartender, "Hey, want to hear a blonde joke?" The bar immediately goes absolutely 100% silent. In a very deep, husky voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, cowboy, I think it's only fair, given that you're blind, that you should know 5 things. Number 1, the bartender is a blonde girl with a baseball bat. Number 2, the bouncer is a blonde girl with a billy club. Number 3, I am a 6 foot tall, 175-pound blonde woman with a black belt in karate. Number 4, the woman sitting next to me is blonde and a professional weightlifter. Number 5, the lady to your right is blonde and a professional wrestler. Now think about it seriously, cowboy. Do you still want to tell that blonde joke?" The blind cowboy thinks for a second, shakes his head, and mutters, "No, not if I'm going to have to explain it 5 times.
Yep. I knew that one. That was a good
Yeah, I figured. It's good.
So I remember when I was a kid one time asking my dad, it's the first time I'd heard the term. And, when you hear something new, you ask your parents, what does this mean? I remember asking my dad, what's an alcoholic? And I remember my dad had the best way of explaining this to me. He pointed across the way and said, "Do you see those 4 trees?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, an alcoholic doesn't see 4 trees. An alcoholic would see 8 trees." And I said, "Oh, okay. That kind of makes sense." And he says, "What do you mean it kind of makes sense?" I said, "Well, I only see 2."
Ugh,
The best when I get a snort out of you. That makes me.
no.
Do you have more, or did you only bring 2? Or are you just really savoring this one? Oh no, his internet died. His internet's been good for 2 weeks, and we now have a Doug internet casualty again. Oh, that makes me sad. Oh, that makes me so sad. Okay. Well, while Doug's internet is strictly resuscitating itself or just absolutely dead, I don't know what's happening there. To continue on with the dad jokes, I've also got one about a conversation that I had with my kid. My son, as you know, as some of you might know, is 7 years old. And the other day I had to ask him, I said, "Hey, what's the difference between toilet paper and a shower curtain?" And he looked up at me and said, "Dad, I don't know." And so I looked back at him and said, "So it was you." Okay, I like that joke. Doug has completely dropped off the Zoom call. So now I've got a dark dad joke, and this is the only dark one I've got for the night. It's very simple, short and sweet. Dads are like boomerangs. I hope. And there you go. That's the closest I have to a hamster joke tonight. I've lost Douglas. He has dropped from the call. His internet has left me an orphan. I'm a podcasting orphan again. Now my microphone is dropping on and off. That's not good. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys. I know Doug appreciates you. This was a long one again. We'll put links in the notes. Consider joining our Patreon. We've got a lot of good stuff there. Like I said, I'm adding 5 different odds this weekend. I'm very excited. Some creative writing, some nonfiction, a deep dive into the Cannibal Cop that we mentioned before. Another deep dive I've been working on in a couple of dad journals. So we've got a lot going on there. It's going to be real busy real soon. We've opened up some bandwidth in my time and kind of made writing a priority again. Yeah, I'm excited. Cup of coffee is all it costs you a month. We have a $3 option on there. We've got a couple of $11 options on there that people have signed up for that we just love the hell out of you for. There's also, I think, a $5 option, but support us. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Your dad homework is just share the cast tonight. Just share it somewhere and find us on Facebook or find us on Instagram or find us on YouTube and put in there a comment somewhere of all those animals on this list. What could you take? What could you beat? And what would you have no chance against? If we've got something wrong, let us know. Feel free to correct us. Share your dad jokes. We appreciate you. We love you. Screw that. Doug's not here. I appreciate you. I love you. Doug obviously couldn't care less. So vote for me as your favorite dad. And we will chat again very soon. Thank you guys for listening. Sincerely appreciate you. Be well and go dad go.